so the change to NIP at then, for me, I think was a great opportunity. I still do believe that. Like, don't regret joining them. And we had a good run in the beginning. It was like, as you said, with a few different players, but honestly, I think we did quite all right. We had some progress, and like stuff happened in my personal life that I don't want to talk too much about, but it really made it so that for me, I was way more isolated than I've ever been. And as you also said, there was a lot of personal struggles for me that came with that, which was like I couldn't sleep for many months and started having panic attacks in the middle of the night and stuff like that.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
Your game.
Here's a good vibe, trend, 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 trend. Here's a good vibe, trend, 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 trend. Here's a good vibe, trend, 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 trend. Good vibe, trend, yeah.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now I come in and go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans around the globe, welcome to another installment of HLTV Confirmed. And I talk really fast because I want to hurry through this intro so we can start talking to our awesome guests for tonight. So let me keep powering through this. It's Monday night, it's prime time. We're bringing you some peak entertainment. It's not mid. The cool kids these days, so they're saying peak, all right? I want to marinate everybody's eyeballs and their ear holes in some fantastic entertainment this evening. So I hope everybody is excited. But before we dig into all the good stuff, we need to do a quick shout out to our sponsors, M1Bet. Remember to gamble responsibly. BitSkins, buy, sell, and trade CSGO skins and items. And of course, SteelSeries. They've been in the game since 2001. They've produced some of the most iconic peripherals that you've seen throughout video gaming. Yeah, that's it. Video gaming, guys. All right. So we mentioned Dimitri. He's been spoken about. But Zvonimir, now I know how to say his name. I'm never going to stop.
Amazing.
That's Prof. And Prof, on a scale of 1... No, it was not 1. From Resident Sleeper to PogChamp, how excited are you for tonight's Counter-Strike conversations?
I'd say Giga PogChamp, if that exists.
Giga PogChamp. Okay. Yeah, that's that. You can make up your own emotes. You can have your own stream going on, so that's fine. We can have one of those. And look, now this is a lot of people are excited about this. There's been a lot of chat about this on the Twitter sphere. I don't know if people at home have seen this, but Striker, who is rocking quite a new hair look. I like it. I like it. That's not where we were going with this.
Everything's about my hair right lately. Like
I'm loving it. I think it looks great. You could be in like a band right now, like a metal band, like Bring Me the Horizon or some shit. It's great. But this is the key that I was getting to, Striker. You've been at HLTV for 10 years.
Over 10 years now, yeah.
Now, that's some milestone. How does that make you feel?
Crazy. It is really crazy because like literally I started with HLTV when I was like in the middle of university and just like not giving a fuck. I said that on Twitter. And just like not knowing even what I want to do. And I started HLTV for a couple more years. I was just like trudging along universities, and eventually I actually got a job out of this. So kind of HLTV kind of saved me, you could say.
Counter-Strike feel-good story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough silly business. Let's get into the main event for this evening. What everybody here is here to see, and it's the 4-time major winner, the 2-time major MVP, Danish Counter Strike's poster boy, one of the absolute fucking all-time greats, Device. Thank you for joining us this evening, mate.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. It's been a long time since the last time.
Yeah.
I think it's like 3 years or something like that.
Yeah,
You
definitely
were
a
at
long time
Astralis
between
last
drinks.
time we talked to. A lot has changed. right?
Yeah, a lot has changed, and I'm back again.
Yeah, and,
I mean, it's kind of similar in the same way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
now, look, I wanted to run this one by you because I made sure I wanted to get a good little resume out there. I think there's not too many players in the world who can say 4-time major winner, 2-time major MVP, just the accolades you have. But I had a conversation last night with Nico, a very lengthy one, but there was something that he said that stuck out to me, and it just like lodged in my brain as like this measuring stick for greatness in Counter Strike. Right? He basically was. It was a compliment, right? The way that I was having a conversation with him, and the metric he used for greatness in Counter Strike was you and your career, like what you have achieved, the bar that has kind of been set for greatness of a player. He looked to you and your resume. So I just thought that was like an
That's pretty
awesome
cool.
compliment.
I gotta hear that podcast now. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, like I think this is one of the interesting conversations, and this is before we get into the hot seat bumper and stuff. But like you as a player and what you've achieved in the trophy cabinet, you try and compare that to anybody else. So like no one's close, right? Like so it's simple individually, he's definitely got a lot of like accolades of the MVPs, but you're as far as like actually winning the biggest and best events, like the GOAT conversation we go to simple, but I feel like maybe we'd be doing a misjustice with that. When it needs a different title, a different definition, because like if somebody like Nico puts you as on that pedestal as that metric, it's kind of crazy, right? Like that's what should matter the most, what the players think.
I mean, it's really tough for me to have like an opinion on it. I do think for me and for everyone, like the team results and the team achievements matter the most, more than the individual accolades. But obviously, it's also nice to be recognized as an individual.
Yeah.
I don't know
think-
how it is in other sports, but that's how I view it, and that's how like you have to treat CS, because we are like the unit of the team has to be really close knit, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
it's. I'm not sure which one of those the guys put it. I think it was. I mean, either way, Yanko or Moses said, like the difference is the most accomplished versus like the greatest of all time. And I think that's obvious. Like who the most accomplished one is.
Yeah,
I don't think
Yeah.
there's a conversation about that.
for sure.
I never
yeah.
think about that, so it's nice when somebody says it, but it doesn't feel real.
All right. Well, look, let's get into the conversation. Dimitri, roll the bumper and let's get into the hot seat. All right. It's getting hot in here, so I just need to have a quick swig of water. But we're going to be getting into quite a conversation here this evening with Device. Now, I have been trying this new little method. Before we just start whacking out questions to our guests, I want to set a bit of framework, right? So we go back to the NIP days where, look, we got to go back further than that. All the accolades you spoke about, the Astralis, the greatest team of all time, so many accomplishments. Online era, not such a nice time. The big trade happens. Me and Striker do a show where we're so blown away that this move has happened that we've done an impromptu show in the middle of the day. Prof was he couldn't make. He would have been there if he could have been there, right, Prof?
I was chilling, having a beer like at 12. It was like a sunny April day. It was like amazing. I was like, let's go. Phone the friend.
Early beer.
Everything's amazing. It's a perfect day. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? We're breaking records with just Striker and without me. What the hell is going on?
So we covered that in great awe and shock, and then you went over to NIP, and there was the whole video thing happened at the time where maybe they threw you a bit under the bus with some of the comments that they put out there in that piece, and then you were playing with the team. There was the whole roster change consistency going on over there. You had to play with some of the young guns they were bringing up from the academy rosters, and then obviously one day it all just came to a close, right? You weren't in the server anymore. You were over to the bench. Since then, you've come out in interviews since you've returned, saying obviously different things to do with like anxiety and stress and all of those bits and bobs, and that's what some of your former teammates also suffered from, like Glaive and Zip experienced burnout as well. And then now we get you back in the Astralis jersey after all this time. You were keeping up the reps, keeping up with the meta, with all the FACEIT and watching all the tape. And now you're back in the server and you're playing. Now, that's a lot that has happened in the last 3 years that I've just kind of condensed down quite poorly and missed an awful lot of key points here. But the point of where I'm going now is there's a lot to unpack here, mate. And I would kind of want to shift the focus and the spotlight to allow you to start wherever you want to start here. And we can kind of just ask questions and pick at it from there. So is there anywhere that you want to begin this conversation?
As a big recap, I mean, chronologically is, I think, the best way to do it. But I don't know where you started. I even think you started in the online era.
Yeah, I
Which-
started a bit early, but I wanted to, for maybe people not up to date with the device law, right, of exactly how we got here, right? But I think the one that kind of stands out for everybody is the curtains closed one day and we didn't know when device was coming back to play. Like that one right there is the key to kind of, I think, where we find ourselves today.
I mean, yeah. So the change to NIP at then, for me, I think was a great opportunity. I still do believe that. Like, don't regret joining them. And we had a good run in the beginning. It was like, as you said, with a few different players. But honestly, I think we did quite all right. We had some progress, and like stuff happened in my personal life that I don't want to talk too much about. But it really made it so that for me, I was way more isolated than I've ever been. And as you also said, there was a lot of personal struggles for me that came with that, which was like I couldn't sleep for many months and started having panic attacks in the middle of the night and stuff like that, which is like, you can talk about it, but if you experience it, you know how shitty it is. It's really hard to understand, I think, if you haven't tried it. But I just kept going because there was the major in Stockholm, which was a really big deal for us as a team and NIP as an organization. And we were actually doing pretty well, like leading up to that tournament. Yeah, we had a top 8 finish, a nail biter against Copenhagen Flames, which was really fun. And then moving on to the time you're talking about, it was, I think, at a playoffs in IEM Winter, where basically my body just shut down. Like I'm used to and did for a long time, like throw up every other day because of the stress. But this was a different pressure. And I just think that like I couldn't deal with it anymore. Like everything around CS was so much chaos that I just had to disconnect and retract myself. Like I wish I would have finished that tournament, but I knew that I had to take a leave after that. And that's also like the recommendation I got when I then talked to some professionals, which were like in shock a little bit. And yeah, when you kind of start a journey on that is like very individual on how long it takes and what you need to be working with, I kind of didn't know when I was coming back. Like I wanted to come back earlier. And I think in the beginning, there was also talks about me returning to Astralis, which like there was no conversation at that point. And at some point I just like shut down social media and just worked with a therapist and a doctor, and I've been doing that for over a year. And yeah, that's what helped me. But that's kind of why it happened. I want to also note that like NIP were really understanding. They didn't put any pressure on me coming back, and of course they asked when I thought that I could come back, but you can't really answer that. Like you don't know what the process looks like. It's not like you have a torn ligament in your knee or something like that. It's when it's mental. It's hard to quantify, and like I just had to take the time. I had to work on some mental resilience and understanding. Other than just healing, I needed to like have a toolbox of things I can use for when I face the stress and pressure that we ultimately do, right?
There's a lot here to kind of unpack with this, but with what you said about NIP being supportive, like I have an anecdote. Like when I got stuck next to Jonas on business class flying home, we actually spoke about like him and the
Worst
players.
business class experience you can ever get.
No,
you
but-
get
but-
free business class, but it's next to Jonas. business.
I upgraded. I think he got his for free. His was a premium upgrade to anyway. Not the point. The point was I remember having a chat to him about like players and like when they say, hey, look, I can't play at the moment and whatever. He says, well, as the team, of course we're gonna support our players, right? Like these are people on our payroll. These are people that we look out for and look after. And you have the way that it gets framed from the sitting at home perspective, right? In the beginning, when you go and everyone hears about it, it's like, okay, everyone understands. But then when it's like, well, where's Device? We want to see this guy in the server. He hasn't been in the server for some time, and people are like, well, they were fucking up his legacy right now by giving him academy players, and so when I look at
agree with that as well. I think Setjar and Linus did a pretty good job. Like we had a top 8 at the major with Linus. Like I don't think they necessarily just threw like shitty players in our team. I think they did the best that they could at the time. So just to have like touch upon that, I don't think that's a legitimate criticism.
But that's like probably the first person who's come out and said something like that in defense of that scenario, right? Even when we had
Reminder
Thread on,
people, he's not an NIP anymore, so it doesn't, this is not a PR
but even when we had Thread on, for example, right? Like I don't think Threat said that LNZ or ZTR were bad players by any means, but they were coming up from the academy roster, right? So it's like you do have to train them up, you do have to get them in the right position to be able to compete, but we're getting some decent results considering the circumstances. There was the whole speaking Swedish situation for you as well. So there's a lot of things going on throughout all of that. Now, where do Prof Striker with where we're at right now? What questions you got? Where do you want to take us?
There's a lot. I think maybe just to wind back to the report that came out that you referenced, right? This was like late 2021. You just were maybe on the break for maybe a month or two or something like that, and then the report came out that you're in talks with Astralis, and now you said like you weren't talking at the time. Where do you think this kind of, because people are now going to look at that and be like, it was obvious, it was like planned all along and stuff like that. But where does this come from? If it wasn't happening, like how does it come?
Honestly,
to kind of credible journalists, right? It's not just anyone posting about it.
I mean, there might have been an interest between organizations. Like they ultimately have to do the business. But from my point of view, I am actually pretty sure, like we didn't even talk about the HLTV top whatever interview that I've done every year that I've been in that. So I like disconnected completely. I wasn't really interested in having those talks. Like for me, it was me first. What kind of an asset would I be at any organization if I'm like I was not able to play? So maybe the interest has been between organizations. It could have been like I think Astralis have had an interest for a long time, but for me, there was no talks of it happening. Like for real. I know it. Like I know when I didn't join, like it sure looks like it, but yeah, I don't know like really what to say other than like people are also free to believe and speculate, and I also do think that's an exciting part about like sports is that you can speculate about your favorite teams and players and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. So I think there's a few other things that are bouncing around here for me, because you said that so you're disconnected from everything social media and stuff. There's a period of time when you were getting back into things where people were, oh my God, look how many games Devices played on Faceit this week, right? Like when you were grinding hard. But how long was the period of time where you weren't touching the game at all? Or was there not a period of time like that?
I think it was like 1.5 months, something like that. But then like days go by, and ultimately the reason why I also started playing was that like the therapist also does feel like the correlation between playing CS and being stressed has always been there. So kind of removing the association that comes with playing CS and stress together. So just to like, I don't know how that works psychologically, but play CS and have fun so that like the mind kind of understands that it's not a fight or flight situation, because as I also said, like I dealt with stress issues for so long. So that was why I started playing, and then like it was really fun. I started playing with a lot of the Danish guys from all the other teams, and we were having a lot of fun. And I also found a lot of joy that I didn't have for CS for a long period. I didn't grind that much individually as well in the end of Astralis, or even in the best period that we have. So kind of like refound the joy, and I felt like it was also good because I kind of realized I still want to do this, but I also knew that at that point, like competing and traveling wasn't gonna be a realistic thing for me.
Was it when you joined these team speaks with all the Danish kids, they would just come flocking in to make sure they're in that 5 stack with you?
Yeah, I mean, like, no, I think that we still play to this day. Everyone in the team speak from all the different teams. So back then it was still Copenhagen Flames. I played with a lot of those guys from the early iteration. Now they're spread around in all of different teams and having a lot of success, right? And you could easily see that they were gonna be really, really good.
I think like this year, even though this is still on like the higher tier, we're talking talented Counter-Strike players, whether or not they're like 4-time major winner level of Counter-Strike players, they could fucking shoot and face it, you know, right? They
Yeah.
know how to play the game. And I think there's so much of this that gets lost when we're doing this at the top level all the time, that it was just something that we were all at one point doing for fun with a bunch of other people, and like kind of all sharpening each other with a group and having a good time with it. It doesn't matter if you did it in a LAN cafe or if you were fortunate enough to have your own PC when you were younger, or like, I think one of the things with your journey, like even though you're still young, you're 27, right? You're not an old man yet by any means. You've been
Getting there.
But you've been playing competitive Counter-Strike for a very long time now. And you've gone through the ramp up into the rampant professional lifestyle with all the travel. Like it was back in 2018 at Sydney, right, where you were having issues with the stress induced, like was it like IBS? Like,
which is just a big pile of nothing. Like IBS is just basically irritated bowel syndrome or something like that. So it's just like you there's nothing you can do against it, really. You can just try to figure out what works for you. But yeah, that's been what I struggled with most of the time, is like IBS. And Sydney, like, or Australia in general, like I love it, but every time I go there, like I sleep 2 hours a night and like I throw up. I remember, I think 2018 was the final against FaZe or something
with
like that
Exist
with
as a stand-in.
Exist, and I was like crying and throwing up right before the game because I felt so shit, and everyone in the team was like, "You shouldn't play this game." Like, yeah, so it's been like the stress issues, as I said, they've been there for a long time.
But this is where I was going. Like I imagine it's built since then, because it's not like
Yeah.
things slowed down, and then you guys went on to be winning so many events, and the pressure to be the best, as well as, you know, balancing life stuff. I think most human beings can attest to the fact we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We just kind of wake up every day and hope that we get something close enough to being right. So it is interesting though when you said that you didn't think that you were getting like sandbagged or anything by NIP, because I would have imagined that part of the stress is like, well, I went from being one of the absolute gods to now, well, we're okay, but we're not lifting every trophy anymore, right? I imagine that might have had a bit of a factor on not enjoying things as much, right? Because winning, nothing feels better than winning.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Like there's the performance stress, which is very individually decided on how much pressure you put on yourself, like your expectations. I think talking about Nico, he's a guy that expects the world from himself, right? You can see it when he plays and he's emotional. I kind of do the same, but like, you know, when you think after a bad round, for instance, like if you mess something up, you're like bashing yourself. But if a teammate like messes something up, you'll try to pick him up. Like there was a shift of mental state for me, trying to figure out, like I would always bash myself and put myself down, try to get better. But I think at one point figured out that that doesn't really work. You have to be your own biggest support in that regard. And I figured that out in NIP because I think I messed up a lot of stuff in game. I didn't really find my groove Like there's no secret to that. I think that I wasn't in a good individual form when I was there at all. So I was also bashing myself a lot while also feeling like shit in the personal life. So yeah, I mean, as you said, the pressure was definitely there, and we wanted to win, especially Stockholm, like the major, the top 8 placing, which in hindsight was great. Like it felt like shit back then. It was everything you worked for, and we didn't even come close to lifting that trophy, honestly. So yeah, that's also one of the parts of like the stress that you have to deal with when you are an athlete professionally.
Are you still that way though? I mean, obviously, as we were talking about, you're the most accomplished player in Counter Strike. You've been there, done it all. You've had, so many trophies, so many MVPs. Does it not get kind of easier to deal with that stress just through kind of like, I've been there so many times before?
Yeah, but yes and no in some way. I think like you can get complacent and have a mindset of I've done whatever I needed to have a good career, but I don't really think like that. So I've gotten better at objectively like using stuff, like criticizing myself the same way that I would do with a teammate, which means that like if it's not something that I can work on, like then I won't bring myself down, which is like inner speech, which is I think pretty widely known by everyone in like sports psychology. So I'm still not that great at it, but I'm working on it. But it's I will never settle. Like if we go to a tournament, it's still with the expectation of winning if we can. But at least like having good performance. I think that's more important than winning is a good team performance.
Yeah. I was more talking about like the negative response, especially like when things are going wrong. It's obviously, that there have been points in your career when you must have dealt with that as well. So I'm curious if that gets better, or if you're like being so motivated towards winning still makes you have like the same lows, that when you were not.
Yeah, definitely the same lows. But one great thing is that like I spend so much less time on social media. So there's a lot of negativity around your performance if you do bad, which is fair in my opinion, because that's how sports is. But I think that has helped a lot to not be filled with a lot of negative, like what do you say, vibes all the time. So that was like my number one tip, and also what I did when I had to kind of heal like the last year is never look at social media. Like it brings you down, and
I
yeah,
think
it's tough.
that's a lesson that maybe Nico should learn from from like a lot of kind of like conversations that I've had with him, and even that podcast you were just doing. He's very that type of a person who will just like see something about himself and he just can't resist, and feels like that's just something that no matter if even if it comes from people that are kind of like closer to you or have like some sort of an opinion, there's always going to be like opinions like from us, for example. Like for me, I feel like it would be better if players just didn't listen to us specifically, just because it will affect them to some level, at some
Yeah,
point. So it's just something like that that I have in my mind too.
it is tough not reading it, but I do think it's the right thing.
I find if you can unplug, right, it's the same with anything. If you can consistently like condition yourself, then it's great. Like, and I have the other one that I go for, and it also is only tied to if I'm in a good mood or not. Like if I've let other things in life get me down, and then I read something online, I'm gonna
Man,
fucking
that's a bad
explode.
idea.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
if I'm in a good mood and everything's okay and I read something bad, well, the way that my mind frames it is like, that's funny. Like, oh, that,
Yeah.
haha. Right. Like, like,
Yeah.
that's seriously, the more you read it and the more you see it, like the echo chamber shit is real. Like, and I'm not even memeing with like EG stuff with that comment. Like, I'm being serious. Like, that, like, if you're stuck in a position, that's all the energy that you're around. I'm sure people have had it with like friend groups and stuff. If it's fucking a negative place, it leaches in. It's not what
Yeah.
anybody wants, man. Nobody wants that.
I think the worst part is when you start believing it though.
Right.
You start feeling that there's some truth in it, like because reading stuff online, like what do people really know? They've just based an opinion on which is not 100% based off facts. But if you start believing it and you hear the same thing, over and over, it becomes very draining, because then you have to convince yourself that that is not the case, and that's when it really drains you. Like that's when it brings you down. If you, as you said, Chad, if you can just like have a good mindset and just read it and be like, haha, yeah, they don't really know what's happening or whatever, then it's fine. But if you read something too much and you start believing it,
Yeah.
then you suffer from a lot of shit from that, I think.
Yeah, it's also different, especially for like players, because like your job is not really reliant on what people think about how you do your job. Like for us, for example, the comments on YouTube, on Twitter actually matter, because these are
Yeah.
people that watch our show, because then we need to like be in tune with these people and stuff like that. And like for casters as well, there is like some degree of validity in what people are saying, but like
most of the time they're just talking about my hair, bro. They're not talking about the words coming out my mouth.
That also shows that they're not even paying attention, because you did your hair 3 months ago, and yesterday there's a new thread about it. It's like, people, where have you been? Like we should have made a news post on HLTV. SPUNJ does hair transplant, so everyone's on the same page, everyone knows it, and
through all the
move on.
podcasts you've done
It's
about
like
it.
literally every time I like turn on, like if I see the chat on Twitch and you show up, it's like, oh, SPUNJ did a hair transplant. Oh my god! Like people are just talking about fucking Striker's hair the whole episode now. Like, why are we objectifying everyone in this fucking industry? What's going on?
Yeah, but it's a big change, to be fair. I can't.
Yeah, but we've got Devices gets compliments all the time, man. It's just, this guy looks like Tom Cruise. That's what he gets all the time.
That is
People
half
saying
the
they think he's
questions that he got.
handsome and an action star. It's like, fuck. Okay,
honestly,
there was even an Astralis one that asked like, which is your favorite Mission Impossible movie?
Do you even like Tom Cruise, or do you think he's a bit of a nut job?
Oh, that's tough.
Some people don't. Some people aren't Tom Cruise fans. They're out there.
I actually, don't know too much Tom Cruise lore, but he does.
He's
good
big
movies.
into Scientology.
What's your favorite Tom Cruise movie?
What's my favorite Tom? It has to be the first Mission Impossible. It has to be.
Not Top Gun.
No. But the second Top Gun was really good, actually. I like that.
I did not watch that yet.
You should watch it. It's a good film.
Everyone told me that. I wanted to.
We didn't come here to ask you what his favorite Tom Cruise movie was.
I mean, I'm certain there was one of the questions that was asked. That is that. So we checked something.
We checked
that was really Astralis saying that on social media. So
right.
it's your own organization's fault.
And we are Astralis PR after all, so we must.
They are recycling the post as well, like a lot. On Instagram, it's like similarity photos, and I'm a bit. I have to ask my mom at some point, like, what happened?
What movie was he shooting in Denmark?
Let me. Have you ever traveled? All right.
Just to kind of wrap up the whole, the whole mental health conversation, because that's obviously, it's something that I feel like in esports people are like, oh, mental health is very serious. We should talk about it. And then that's the end. Like no one ever says anything. No, like what you have said today is like more than like 99% of people have said, actually, like actually coming out and saying like, okay, I did this, this was a struggle and stuff like that. Like I did a bunch of therapy last year for like personal stuff. Life is shit sometimes. And then if you can pay someone to listen to you, it becomes a little less shit, right? And not even that, like actually getting actionable ways to deal with things, and like having someone like just ask you questions like, okay, this triggers this response, why do you think this is a problem? And just like going through this kind of just like unpacking your emotions and what you're feeling and stuff like that. So what do you think, for like, there's certainly people watching this that are struggling with same or similar or different things in terms of mental health. How do you kind of, where do you start in terms of like, you're feeling like shit, you don't know what to do? There was a thread on HLTV yesterday, and like 80% of advice was like, go to the gym. And then there was like 5% is like, go to a therapist, which I feel like is kind of funny actually, because gym is nice, but it's not really going to solve your problems if you're depressed, right? So where, like, maybe from your experience, how does it start? How do you start unpacking this?
I mean, I think the first real thing is like the realization of you're feeling like shit and why, and like asking yourself questions and checking in with yourself, and sort of like the same way you would do with good friends that change behavior and stuff like that. You have to look at some stuff like that, but it's also a very deep question. Like for me, it was always easier just to keep it to myself for as long as I could, which was a lot of years. And you can go to the gym and you get a lot of positive endorphins and stuff like that, but it doesn't work in the long term. I think, as you said, like having someone that can teach you some tools to work with the emotion and the thoughts, and trying to retract yourself from the negative emotions in the moment, which is like, I think, I can't remember where it comes from, but it's something that stuck to me. It's like sort of thinking like this too will pass in some way. So if you're feeling really shit, like it will pass no matter what. And if you're feeling really good, it will also be
Still
over at
pass.
one
Yeah.
point. Yeah. And I think there's like that certainty in it, and that gives me like makes me calm in some way. But I think like if you're really struggling, having professional help is ultimately the best thing to do, to understand where does it come from, how do I deal with this, to not isolate yourself, which is like one of the common things to do when you're really feeling shit. I did that as well. I think that's actually the worst thing, because then you only have yourself, and sometimes that's not enough. So always like talk to people and reach out. And yeah, I think I'm not a guru in any sort of way, so that's just like what I can say from my experience. And
Something actually just came to my mind, because I literally have been holding on to this for a while, because you've been gone for some time.
we can remove one of the ones.
I think that's and it's literally something, I don't remember who was that from like this year, but literally somebody else said the same exact thing. So I think, yeah, I mean, either EPL if you make it to the playoffs, or RMR is when we can hand it
Send
over.
it to me. I can give it to him when he gets here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can do
Yeah.
that actually. But
Yeah.
I would need a picture with somebody. If you have get a hold of a professional photographer who can do the
We're
picture.
gonna talk to
Be a
Adela.
photographer.
We're gonna talk to
Yeah,
Adela.
yeah.
We're
I'll
gonna put
ask
her on the
Adela.
side.
She can do it. Yeah, we can make that work. We
Wait,
can
which
make that
group
happen.
are you playing? Is it C
The
or D?
last one.
Oh, D. Okay.
Oh, plenty of
Oh,
time.
there's plenty of time. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
could actually send it maybe. But
No,
it's Malta, man. Like it's post. I think post takes a long time.
I missed my delivery today. I was getting a putt set, with mini golf set. Well, not even just a putting green for the set in so we can have some more fun. So I missed that delivery today. But if you send it for the medal, I'll make sure I'm home, Striker.
Yeah.
All right? We'll make sure we're here for it.
Okay. Did you have a
yeah.
question? Because I had something.
No, get your question in.
Cool. You said something earlier about, I think when you were talking kind of about like that period where you were trying to kind of like get back on your feet, and you said something there about wanting to come back earlier, and you didn't necessarily elaborate on that. So I'm just curious about what you meant by that. You know, what was that period like when you wanted to come back? Why couldn't you? Things like that.
Yeah. So for me, like there was, when the immediate improvement, it came pretty quickly with the therapist and doctor, obviously, since it gives a lot of hope and calmness in your body to have professional help. So I wanted earlier to, like, as soon as I could, to come back, because I didn't want to miss my first major, which was the PGL Antwerp major. And like there was a lot of stuff that I didn't want to miss, because ultimately CS is what I love and do and want to do, right? So but I was just advised not to do it, and in a pretty logical, rhetorical like way of how long does it take to unwind and really retract yourself from the stress, which is longer than I wanted it to be, more than a half year, but I didn't know at that point, right? So that was like me personally. As soon as I felt good enough to come back and wasn't like a mess, I wanted to do it, but it was not the right thing. I can also see that in hindsight. Like I would just have pushed myself back into it too quickly, like I did with my stomach issues when I also had a break in, was that 2017, I think.
I think like
Yeah.
late 2017.
Or,
Right?
yeah, early 2018 was just about like that opping period where Dupree was opping
Oh,
and all
yeah.
that stuff, right? Yeah.
So that's like the whole idea of that.
Okay. I feel like we're still a bit all over the place here. Now I got Dimitri here. Now I wanna this might be a sensitive photo. I don't know. This was a quite an iconic photo. I'm sure you've seen this photo before, but Dimitri, if you could bring up the picture that we were talking about earlier. Now this was the last time we saw you play CS. Was this the moment where it was, well, before you came back again, but was this the moment where it's just like it's all too much, and then you went and you know were working out what you were going to do moving forward? Had you already like been given the advice that, hey, you should stop doing this for now? Like what at this moment, what the fuck, what's happening?
I mean, this was not the last time, but this was just when we lost in Denmark at Copenhagen Blast. But right after this tournament, we went to IEM Winter, where we actually performed really well. I think we were in the semifinal.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, at that point, I was also feeling like shit. Like when I talk to people I met in Denmark that have known me for a long, long time, that didn't see me for a long time, they also told me like I was like a really shallow version of myself. Like I was just going through the motions without like anything. So yeah, I went to Stockholm, played some games there, and actually before the semifinal, the day before, it just like at the hotel, I just felt really shit and couldn't sleep for some days, and then my body just shut down in some way, and I just went home and started with the therapist doctor thing after that.
Okay. Now I remember where we're at in the timeline here because we were in that Globen hotel, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
the
that's when
legendary hotel.
yeah, and it was really quite weird at that time because it was still like really COVID-y, right? And we were, but
You
you
couldn't
guys,
get a doctor to the room. You
yeah,
couldn't really like. So for me, it was just like it was really scary. And as I said, like the panic attacks, it's just like you feel like you can't breathe, and like you don't feel like connected to your body. Like it's such a weird feeling, and I just couldn't like deal with it myself anymore. And I just think the depression, stress of also knowing that I have to be on the server and be there for the team was just too much.
yeah, you know what's crazy, right? Because with us being in the same hotel there, like I remember and this is during one of the times in my life where I'm like, hey, let's go to the gym more than once a month,
Yeah,
right? I was going like every day. And I remember you were in the gym like a couple days. I saw you a couple days there and I was like, oh yeah, like cool devices. Like, so I had no idea at the, this is the thing. I don't think anyone had any idea, what the fuck's going on. It just looked like another normal day. You were, I
yeah.
thought you were with Rez, you guys were joking around like you'd normally be, right? It was like everything seemed fine. And then like everything isn't fine. That's what's fucked, right? Like we really have no idea what's going on. And this is going back to the mental health conversation. This is why I guess it's so hard to talk about because it's personal for everybody, right?
You
And like,
just put on a mask. Like you learn to put on a mask, and people don't notice if they don't really, really know you, and you don't have like conversations that
mm,
matter with people. So yeah, I understand that. I also had some people reaching out that played the tournament that also were like, "What happened? Like, we just saw you in the gym the day before, or even at the day I had the shutdown thing, meltdown thing, whatever you call it. Like, I was also at the gym, so it, the gym helped me as well, like with the endorphins and not feeling too shabby. So yeah, it's not an indication I do feel of like how you're really feeling. But yeah, like as I said, the people that know me, that met me around that Blast Copenhagen time, they also not when they know me now, and see me now, really know that like there's a big disparity between the two persons almost in some way.
oh. Well, let's jump around a bit here. Where do we want to go with this, boys? Because we could like ping pong all over the place. We can go talking about like probably gonna make a god tier Danish stack out of all your pug environments, right? There was some rumors swirling around there for a little while about you making teams. right? We could go over there. We could talk about.
That's a good start, I think.
Yeah?
Just like about the comeback, like when that happened.
Was it
when
like
the
a
dis-
Rocky film? You know, where you're running upstairs, was the music playing? You know, you were out there, you were just playing 100,000 bots a day. You know, was it a full Rocky montage?
I mean, yes and no. Ultimately, it was buying the best Kevlar helmet that supported my mental well-being in some way. Like that was
Okay.
the building that up was the most important part. But yeah, like comeback, as you said, there was some talks between like different opportunities from different teams during the summer break as well. And I actually do think it was like in September, start October, that I was just like, yes, this is time to get back into it. And leading up to that, I also turned up the Faceit and the pucks and the demo reviews. I wanted to work with Nat out here. We had a lot of conversations of him
Oh
actually
shit.
like making videos of the meta, but we never really got to do it. Huge shout out to him. He's a really talented guy. So I was really serious with like getting back and yeah, I just had to grind the demos myself, which takes a lot of time as well.
Did you feel you had missed a lot? Like, had the game evolved a lot in that time?
Yeah, I do think so. I think that we saw the meta shift into more of a how does heroic like their style. I think a lot of people adapted that, and I also do think that if you look at the AWPers, like the role changed quite significantly. You play more post plants on T. You. I don't think the AWPing role is that aggressive as it was back then. I don't know if it's because the riflers are getting better at punishing or whatever it is, but yeah, the role is a little bit more passive. You have to have a better understanding of the game and what's happening, an overview. So looking at that, it definitely was different to when I played in an IP.
I think the so you said when you kind of had the mental decision to like come back, what was the at the time, what was the situation with NIP? Like, was there a chance for you to come back to that team? Because obviously they did some upgrades, they got the Brolan in, and like the team on paper for me personally is like, if you come back, this is like
It could win.
this is a team, like this is top one contender team potentially, right?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if we had that conversation. I think it was basically like mutually agreed pretty quickly with Astralis. And for me, I also did feel like that was the best opportunity for me moving forward, since like there was some trauma in Sweden and a lot of stuff that like I kind of put away when I moved to Denmark, which is more on the personal side and not with NIP. So for me to have that mental reset was nice, and I think that, as I said, like the decision was pretty much made mutually. Whereas I do, maybe there was an opportunity for me to go back to an IP, but it was really not in the cards. I think it was also like there was such a long disconnect from the team in general that it could have been a bit awkward maybe. But as I said, like they never put any pressure on me to come back for them or anything, and they think the deal that was made was good for all parties.
Okay. Yeah, I guess like for us to sit and play play like Moneyball with Counter-Strike, right? For us, it was such a tantalizing prospect to think of you back in the server with some people who we knew could frag, right? And there was, and still, this is the conversation we had with NIP when you're on the bench or when you had just got there. Is like the team was competitive somehow. It was like they have all these like issues that are existing here. Like maybe there's an academy player here, or this guy's doing this, or this guy's doing this, but still managing to like maintain this same kind of level. So I guess for us from like that side of Counter-Strike, I was like, if Device just comes back, but hey, look, with certain things that you're talking about here that
I
yeah,
mean,
from
it was also tantalizing, like the thought of playing with Brolan, and I also do admire DJL, so I understand that. Like, I think it would have been a good team as well. So I completely understand that thought, but I do believe it was the right thing for me to take this path.
was there any other conversations or thoughts of like, okay, well, if I don't go back to Astralis, and I'm not going to be at NIP, who am I going to play with, or am I going to make a team, or was there anything like that?
Yeah, there was opportunities. I'm not gonna put the names, but good opportunities, like
The proper orgs.
yeah, the top orgs, some of them. But
Okay.
So I heard this. I heard this rumor. So I heard a Danish stack.
yeah,
I'll name some names, and you can. I'll just read your face to see
Okay.
how true this was.
Yeah.
But no, before the Astralis thing came through, I heard like there was quite a few like free agents or people on the bench that were in the Danish scene that were looking for an opportunity. So I heard this lineup of Device, Yabi, Hooksy, +1, +2. That was a combination that was maybe playing some pugs, maybe like looking for an org. That was maybe looking to do something together. Is there any truth to that?
I mean, I think I would have wanted to play with them at least. They had their thing going on, and I think, like, even if there was some truth to it, like, there was more just so like fun conversations because Roy and nicoodoz kind of joined Fnatic. But I think they settled into good teams like instantly before I was ready, and they're doing really well. So for me, like, I can just say that I think that they are really good players, and I would have loved to play with them. But yeah, it didn't happen, and I think that it's also a question of whether there's like, is there really in the scene a spot for a Danish team more? Like, we have a pretty small country. If you want to make an org or play in a team, like, and like, we have 6 million people here in Denmark, and we already have Heroic and Astralis in Blast and EPL, right? It's just not business-wise the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. So I guess though, if some of these other offers that you were having were for international teams, you wanted to play with the Danes again. You didn't want to be speaking anything else.
No, yes and no. I think like prospect of me playing and what I realized also in NIP was like the office we had in Stockholm, which was awesome. I loved that. I didn't have that when I was in Astralis because I lived in Sweden. So I really wanted to play in Denmark, and then again, I also do feel like I just play really well in the Astralis team. I also feel like I've been playing well since I came back, which is like, I don't know why that is. If it's completely up to how me and Clay view the game together and stuff like that. But I knew that for me, like, going to a place I know with like people I know that I trust, I've spent so many years with, it also is like a lot of certainty in the mental side of it. And then for me, it was also really exciting to get to play with Blame. I think he's an amazing player.
There's like this stuff here. I want to. Fuck it. I'll just ask it now. I was going to say I'll get to this when we start talking more about the current team, but may as well. So you mentioned like the way you and Glaive see the game as the AWPer and in-game leader, and that opens up like a curious little box in my head here. Like obviously the AWPer is one of the most active members on the team, right? In terms of running to angles and holding them for the T side, or wanting to pick a fight, right? Or on the CT side, having a good spawn and recognizing that and wanting to do a move off of it. So do you feel like that the connection with the in-game leader and the AWPer are almost like, it's like the boss and the right hand man in a way, right? Because you kind of enable each other. Like the caller, if I remember when like my AWPers would make calls, it would make my life as an in-game leader so much easier, and I would create the round around what they wanted to do. Like, how important do you think that relationship is?
It's very important. Like, you have to be super dynamic and help so much, especially on the CT side. I do think like the map kind of revolves around the AWP positioning, and you can see it on Inferno now how Shiro plays the B side for Cloud9, and it's like you move the AWP around, the map is played differently. That's how it is on all maps. Imagine you start to play an AWP inside on Nuke every round. Like, the map is just played differently. So I think like that dynamic and understanding needs to be there, but it's also just how you view the game, the the mindset of the team as well. I mean, like the freedom in NIP and Astralis of what I can do is not different. I actually do think I had more freedom in NIP. I just don't know whether it was the pressure or what it was that was like made it harder in some way. I mean, like I felt like I missed more, but it could also just be an individual thing. But yeah, you have to. I don't think you are like a secondary caller, but you have to be early round. You have to talk a lot about what you want to do and have like you need to have a lot of good openings. And then on the CT, you do a lot of the calling as well. Like the team plays around you.
Really setting the tone. Okay, here's a fun one. I'm going to throw you away, mate. This this one's a hot potato here. So we'll see if this one stays in your hands for long. What's your thoughts on this whole HUNDEN situation, mate? It's quite a controversial scenario, and I think I saw that the Danish fans, and you guys have some hardcore fans, especially the more normies. I think they weren't too happy with this.
No, I mean like HUNDEN is a guy that played Source ever since I played Source, like for what must have been like 14 years now. Like I remember when I was 13 and going to my first lands and stuff, he was also there. So I've always like seen him, but I've never really known him. And obviously, like he used the bug against us as well. But I also do think like I believe in second chances first of all. But another thing is that I also treat people based on how they treat me, and I was just open-minded when I met him, and I do think like personally he's a really good guy, and he's really really good at CS and at his job. So that's like how I view it, and now I'm getting to know him as a person as well. Like I like him, but I understand like that the public narrative is like the witch hunt we had back in the days, right? You have to burn somebody alive to have justice.
Yeah.
I think the problem I think people see is not that it's a second chance; it's more like a third or fourth after what's happened in the past few years. So I think that's like the biggest frustration that people have.
Yeah, I like. I don't know what was more than the bug. Honestly, I didn't follow that much, but
Man, you must have been really out at that time.
Yeah, I'm like I
A lot of shit.
don't read that much, but I guess like there was the whole like one thing I've always thought about the coach bug, which this might be a little bit controversial, but if the coach is the only guy that knows about the bug and the team doesn't know about it, it has no relevance to the game. Like that's like then he can't give any information. What does it matter? So for it to have an impact, it must have been communicated. So for the coaches to be the only persons that are like
being punished,
I guess,
is a bit weird for me. Like that's just my take that's always been on it. Like it can't matter if the players don't know.
I see what you're saying. I think a counter argument that people would come, and this argument would never end because there's no way that anyone could ever define it. Like I imagine people would come back and say, yeah, but he could have communicated it in a way that wasn't suspicious. But the whole point here is
it is suspicious if your coach is like
calling something in the middle of a round. Like, hey, there might be coming apartments now. Right?
Yeah. I mean, like also in that era, I guess you also had coaches talking all of the time, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So it might not have been, but I just feel like that's how I've always viewed it. Like for it to have like the real impact, it must like people must have known, or otherwise it doesn't matter that much. Like
this takes me back to one key point though, and this is one that you will probably have I don't know, we'll see, let's find out. What do you guys think, this is open to the room right now, is the biggest insult, and I'm not saying like profanity or saying anything like mega nasty and being derogatory and all that kind of stuff. Well, I guess it is derogatory, but I mean like in a mean way, and not picking at people's in Counter-Strike. What do you think like the biggest insult is that you can call someone in Counter-Strike?
It is a cheater.
Onliner,
Well,
probably.
okay,
Yeah.
onliner, yes, and
Cheater
because
is kind of a, if you're not cheating, it's kind of a compliment actually.
Yeah.
the cheater folds into the onliner stuff though. The reason that we call people onliners with such fucking vitriol back in the day, right, is because who knows
can't do
what
it
those
online,
shady fuckers are doing at home. We don't know for one way or
Yeah.
another, right? Like you in 1.6 using 16-bit as opposed to 32, you fucking onliner, right? Or like, and that's the biggest insult, or the one that
true.
hurts the most, is getting called an onliner, right? That's essentially what happened to Rops, right? He was so good, they're calling him an onliner, basically saying the cunt's cheating, and then he had to go out and play at the face of office
Oh
to
yeah, that's true.
prove that he wasn't cheating, because that's the biggest like finger
That
pointing.
also the funniest thing, that doesn't prove that he isn't cheating, but okay, it doesn't really matter. It's like
Fair, yeah.
what is this? Like, I performed this way here, and now I'm performing somewhere. It's like, what does
Yeah.
this prove?
I
Doesn't
see what
actually
you're
prove
saying.
anything. But never mind. Like,
But I mean, you can see that they can be as good, without the
Yeah.
sort of, at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
you think you can be good.
Yeah,
without
yeah.
I
the
remember that
assistance,
was an issue we had with the smoke kills that Glaive and Zip got.
right? Oh yeah.
Like there was
Christ.
literally
Nvidia-
TOs that checked the PCs and switched like everything on the PCs, like between playoffs games, because of the people thought that they were cheating. I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me ask, because let's kind of, we're gonna wrap up the HUNDEN thing. I don't think we're gonna come
Yeah.
back, but like, what is it like working with him? What does he bring to the table? How does he come into the team? Right.
I mean, he has a really good understanding of the game. I do think he is also very serious, and like I think the most important aspect for me in the whole situation is that every day you go to work, you go to your practice, you learn something. Sometimes that is not the case, but I do think that I can learn from him every day, in different ways. So that's how, like, yeah, you can also laugh a little bit about that.
I'm just looking at the chat. I'm don't
Okay.
really. I'm not laughing at your stuff. This is my classic.
Yeah.
Can
People
you-
just
can-
spamming the cameras and understanding and
The
something. like
boosts and
Yeah.
everything.
yeah.
He expands your view, right?
Yeah. We have
Yeah.
a better communication and better we're better at-
Understanding
at-
of the
at stacking.
rotations.
But
Yeah.
I think just to like the story behind HUNDEN before we got into this scenario was simply that he was great at helping bring up talented players,
Yeah.
right? Like picking the right players and helping teach them how to play the game and then be good players. So I don't think there was ever any question about like him having a Counter-Strike brain or being able to spot good names or whatever, right? So
I mean, it's a crazy story. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not worth rehashing it now, because like we're wasting time that we could
Oh, yeah,
pick from Device's brain, because it doesn't really have to do anything with him. But like, it always kind of felt like, oh, he's gonna end up as in Astralis, especially if Zonic is leaving, with all the rumors that were circulating around the time. And I don't know when we're gonna ever get the full story of what happened, because I don't feel like we got like even 50% of what
I
actually
mean,
happened.
I wasn't there as well. So
Yeah.
I left, so I don't really know what happened in that timeline. Like I was focused on the NIP stuff. But that was around the time where when I left, I do think like at one point the other guys also split up, and Astralis probably knew they was not gonna have like Sonic. So I think the conversation was with HUNDEN wasn't there when I was in the team. Like it was Sonic that was the guy, right?
that's true. And as far as the timeline goes, all right. You want to get a nugget out of him here, Prof? You want to hear what he has to say about something real spicy? Where do you think about poor Lucky and Farley offered up as like these lambs to the slaughter of the Danish Counter-Strike fans? Here we offer you these two. We've lost Device, but we're offering Farley and Lucky. Can we get anything for them?
When I left the team, it was right after we lost to Furia in EPL. I told the guys that I was gonna leave. I told Glaive that they should take nicoodoz, actually.
Oh shit!
I told Glaive that, but I don't know if it wasn't a possibility of he was not developed. But just going back to Lucky and Farley, I also do think that we had the situation with Snappy where if you just compare, like Snappy did the nerds Spinks comparison. Like
Right.
nerds can be the new Spinks. Like I think that when you come into a team, you don't come in and try to fill out the shoes of the previous guy in CS because of the dynamics in the team. Is like you're 20% of the team, and you have to fit that into the role that the guy has and what is his qualities, what is he good at. And that might have been the case with those guys, I'm not sure, or otherwise they were just not ready. I always thought that Farley had a lot of potential, so I don't know why it didn't work out. Like, understandably so, with the rumors in the end of his tenure, it sucks. Like, I understand that, but it might also remove some pressure, I guess. But yeah, that's like my view on it. I don't know. Like, lucky I never
It's
really.
big shoes to fill, though, right? For like these kids as well, right? Like, we've given you the props of the accolades, and it's like these guys are meant to come in and be able to contribute. And the team, it's not like it was the same team it used to be or anything like that, right? It's a
Exactly.
whole new project, and there's so much hype around the organization, domestically, internationally, because of everything. And this is something else that I don't. Being a good Counter-Strike team is hard. Like it's not meant to be easy. That's why, like,
I
to
mean,
be,
only one team at a time is
can be the
good.
best team.
Yeah,
And
apparently.
by community standards, only the best is the best. And now today, even the best G2 is not good.
No, they lost.
They're
Yeah.
actually pretty bad.
They lost the map.
They lost.
So there's no
They
good
lost-
teams currently
yeah.
in CS, apparently.
It's kind of crazy.
Also, just coming back to that, what you said before, I think that they didn't really replace me in the beginning as well. They just played with Boobski, right? So I think it was also a weird transition, maybe, like to not have an AWPer, or Dupree was AWPing, and then it was Glaive was renowned sniper thief at one point as well, right? So yeah,
that was the best tournament.
yeah, exactly. No, I do. It was hard, and as I said again, like when you grow up as a player, like don't compare yourself like to your what do
Like
you like
predecessor.
opponents and predecessors and anything. Like I don't think like comparison just makes you sad in some way.
What's the saying? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Of joy, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
It's not good.
Bobsky in chat.
Oh, hello.
He
Well, he's
always
got a
enough.
new job
Hey,
now.
yeah, he's
Tyrannosaurus Rex and says Dupree op or whatever, some dinosaur. I don't know. Maybe it's gorilla. Who knows? Do you have a fucking blanket, Chad?
Yeah, I'm like an old grandma, dude. I got a blanket on my lap.
That's
It's
cool.
cold. I'm trying to be cozy, like, you know. I'm enjoying the conversation. I want to be warm.
I have two questions to ask on my to-do list before we move too far away. If that's far. Is that
out
fine?
of orbit. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask what did I want to ask? Yeah, there are two like big, not really big, but like maybe big topics about your
Sizable.
like NIP departure. So one of them is the whole paycheck stealer discussion, and you did do like one interview with PlayGG or whatever, and there were some comments there, but it wasn't really, I don't feel like it was explained fully actually what it meant, because you said that you didn't get a paycheck from NIP for like a year or something. It's like how is this?
I mean,
and at the same time, they kind of like said that they supported you. So what is the truth here? It seems kind of confusing.
I mean, it can correlate. I didn't I wasn't paid when I was under sick leave, which was like a deal we had. But other than that, like I think in the interview, what I said is like you shouldn't be ashamed of being paid while you're under sick leave. I think it's very much up to the situation, and I was not paid by the Swedish government or the Danish government, just to let people the taxpayers be safe as well. So that's just how the situation was between us, and I do think like paycheck stealer or not, like money has never been an important aspect of my career. The guys that I play with in Astralis know that I've never been a good guy at negotiating or something like that. So for me, it was just natural to me to also remove some of the pressure of coming back to not like have to be paid.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the other, it was also kind of related. There was one report that said like when you're leaving NIP that you kind of had to give away like a big cut of either like stuff that NIP owned you, or was it sticker money or something in terms of like $120,000? There's like, I think Jackson report. They reported like 75 things about you. They're like on a weekly device.
Somebody must have
Like
had
a newsletter.
I
like
have to
a device
check my
newsletter, yeah.
PC. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they
You
also
should.
reported all of the config stuff, right? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Some
then
of it
they
was
shut.
true.
And then they
So
shut down.
Yeah. Hey.
I'm kidding. Just to touch upon that, I honestly don't remember if I gave up something. If I did, it must have been from the Stockholm major, since I didn't play anything other than that. But I'm pretty sure I was paid everything from the Stockholm major. So, no. But the deal was made between Astralis and NIP, and everyone was happy. Also NIP, I think.
So something good for someone.
Yeah, like
Is it-
the transfer fee was sufficient enough for both parties, and for me, if I gave up something, I was fine with it as well. Like as I said, like money doesn't really. We live in Denmark. We pay 55% taxes. It's not as like
so if it
giving
was
away money all the time.
120,000, it's actually 60. So or maybe 50.
yeah. So
after tax.
in some way or form, like money has not been my priority, like ever, and it never will be. So I don't care too much about like I signed up money when I joined NIP. At least that's what I can remember.
Okay. All right. Is that your housekeeping
Yeah.
done there, Prof?
Do we want to take like a short break now before we go further? Because
we
we're
can run an ad break. Yeah, I think we need to run like an hour at the. Well, we're a little bit
hour
later on
long.
another hour long. All right, it's only a couple minutes long, but at
Yeah.
an hour in, I was meant to run an ad break. So.
It's a good vibe, train, 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 train. It's a good vibe, train, 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 train. It's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Good vibe, train, yeah.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
N1 Bet. Your bet, your game.
Breaking news: we have two ghosts and a guy with a rock band haircut. Oh, Prof's back. But breaking news, everybody!
There we go.
Nakama part ways with Smiths and Deos. Breaking.
Okay, I'll get some water. Device isn't here, so I don't
Yeah, but I'm handling the breaking news right now, Prof. All right. So right now the team is left with Shox, Kersey, and Netu, the character from Hunter x Hunter, as well as Flexor as the coach. So that's the breaking news. I hope everybody.
What are we talking about?
Shox's team, Nakama. They parted ways with Smiths and Deos.
They didn't qualify. That's so sad.
Yeah, crazy scenes here. No, but now you're back. We can get back underway here. The people at home, they were gagging for the recent news, though. Okay, where were we? We've just come out of the ad break, and I guess now we can jump anywhere we want. Should we get more modern, Striker? Should we get a bit more up to date with where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking too. Like that we should just get into like how this Astralis was even built, you know, with you in mind and Buzz as kind of like the last piece and all that stuff. I think that's the best way to go about this, to like lead into the most recent stuff.
Rejoining the team and the roster
exactly.
as is. So what did you walk into? You know, you open the door and the office is on fire and you're like, it's all right, guys, I'm home.
It's fine. You know, that the dog that's in the burning building.
Exactly.
I'm kidding. Obviously I played with Mr. first, right in the first
Yes,
iteration, which was just like for me at that like the first few months and a little bit still is getting through the motions. Like, what does it feel like playing the best teams? What does it feel like being on the server for practice 8 hours a day and then the individual 3-hour practice, which is almost mandatory if you want to be a good player. It's like 10, 11 hours a day, right?
that's what most people are playing at the moment. Like 8 hours with the team and then 3 hours of on your
Maybe
own.
like 6, 7 hours with the team with an hour break, and then you have like 3 facets, some demos, something like that. It's not what most are doing. I think it's what the people that are min-maxing, like trying to do as much
Okay.
as they can. Like that's not a sustainable thing for an entire year, but it's a catch-up method.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, that for me going through those motions and then obviously bringing in Buzz, which is one of the guys I spent the most time on the server with the last year. Which for me, there was a lot of opinions about that in the beginning, but for me it was very natural. I think he's very gifted and mature, even though he's young. So like I love playing with him. He's one of my favorite teammates and of all time, and we're having a lot of fun. So
Damn, that's some high praise.
I'm actually curious about that because that's kind of what I heard along those lines. You know, that's like you kind of were pushing for Buzz to be added to this team. Is that right?
I don't have that much power,
But I
but
mean, you obviously they all listened to your opinion.
yeah. I recommended him. I think he's really good. So yeah, I just said that like he was also a economical good choice. Like obviously there was a lot of reports about other players, and I do think the market of CS players have not really followed the global economic market, which is downwards. But CSGO players are becoming more and more expensive. Yeah, skyrocketing. What would Monesi cost this year? Probably
Holy shit.
a few
I mean,
million or
after his
more.
performances, definitely more, right?
Exactly. But he's also another case. But I mean, like, so it was just a no-brainer, and I think that he's just developing really well, and you can also thank Hunden for that.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
thank you,
think.
Mr. Hunden.
Yeah,
Be a new meme. People are
yeah.
gonna love it. It's gonna take over the forums here. Okay, so the other thing that's interesting to me is you're coming back and you're playing with Zip and Dave again,
Yeah.
right? Like returning to play with them. Well, it's the in-game leader that you win in these titles with, and Zip, who you've been with forever, right? Like you mentioned the being in the office and all the familiar faces and stuff. Is this like similar feeling in the server now? Like you're playing with two guys
Yeah.
who you know exactly what to expect?
Yeah, and I know what they expect of me, and I know how to play them better. I know what they need as players to be also better on the server. I think, especially with Zip, like so that's a really good thing to just have already. It takes some time usually, and then obviously like Blame F for me, it was a question mark of whether how much space does he require before I joined the team, because we play a lot of the like overpass A, which is like double star player roles, nuke, double star player roles, right? But he's been the biggest surprise for me. Like I feel like we're working in, what do you say, like tandem? Do you say like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's working really well, and that's like I think that is the one of the success criterias for this team.
Well, that's
Is
what the
us.
stats reflect, mate. When you guys win, it's either him at the top or you at the top, and you just kind of have a relay race between every map with the two of you. That's the only way to success right now, right? So you two are the Bash brothers of the team.
Yeah, I mean, like we're also set up to do that. So I do think that it makes sense. But yeah, it's a pleasure working with him and playing with him, and he is a real grinder. Something that I also try to be. Maybe not as much as him. He's really hardcore, but it also motivates me to do better. And I do think, like as I said, like the ping pong between the spots is just like it's just spot on. I really do feel like we can like achieve a lot of good stuff with that duo.
It does feel, but watching him since you've joined the team, that he's developed even more as a player, right? Because I think there's a lot of stuff with Blame that gets assumed because of how quick he kind of just ascended to this position of being considered a good rifler, right? Like he was on Heroic, and then he gets this like massive upgrade to go be the boss over there at Complexity, and then they find some success almost immediately, and then things start to go poorly, and then he kind of then makes the jump across with Config to the Astralis name, and he's continued to play well, but I feel like the type of Counter-Strike he plays now is much more complete than the type of Counter-Strike he was playing, a year or two ago, right? Like, and that's just in the games with you guys. Like, it feels like you're getting a lot more out of him in all the areas. If Blame's last alive and he's in a clutch situation, he's lurking somewhere, yeah, he's going to win it. I expect that from Blame. But now when I watch the game, I'm seeing him involved in a whole lot more. Does it feel? Well, I guess you didn't play with him before, so I guess you don't. You only know
It's
what it
hard
is to play with him now.
Yeah, to compare it for sure. But I know that when I joined the team, he got a lot of the more dynamic T side roles, which was not lurking. I think he was doing a lot of the lurking before, and like we have a fun meme on the team that we have 3 lurkers with Buzz, Zip, and Blame, but it's something we make fun of. Sorry. Like he's really like aggressive and being put in situations we want him in and he wants to be in, and that shows a lot on the space that he's creating. So you kind of work with that in CS now. Like Yikindar, you take him, he's like an entry fragger on paper, but what most forward, like for first and foremost, is like a space creator for the team, which makes the map bigger for the CTs. You see Heroic work with that a lot as well, with the active lurks and like constantly having reassurance on the other side of the map. So he does a lot of the space creating, whereas I think before that he was using that space to take map control. So he's just in a different role than he was in before, and he's really good at it. That it's as I said, like it's a pleasure, because as an AWPer, things have become a bit more passive. So you also need your team to be taking that space, and he's really good at that.
I don't know, man. I was watching one of the matches that you guys were playing. I don't even know what event it was, but you were playing on Inferno and you were just top mid, and there was no point in you were not going to be fighting top mid. And I'm like, most AWPers have really overstayed their welcome here, and Device is still just like, I forget which matchup it was. But
I honestly think it was the OG game in Blast, because I watched it yesterday, and you're just chilling in mid, like under balcony every round, even if you're playing like 2A. I'm like, if I was doing this in matchmaking, someone would tell me I'm an idiot. Like
you were just maybe it was that game, but I just remember you were just fucking smashing someone.
Yeah, it might be. The only thing I remember from the OG game was the 15-14. I get smoke spammed by Dexter and they win the game 16-14.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the negative. I was trying to bring out the positives, mate. I was bigging you up.
Against Heroic, I did that as well. But I think the reasoning behind that because you have to destroy the build-up play, because otherwise the fundamentals is too strong. And that's what, like, might throw out a weird name here, Afro, the French AWPer. He's had some good games against Astralis. Like, some of the stuff he does is what is the most annoying to play against as an AWPer if you are the favorite, because like he just doesn't respect the rules that we play under. And I try to apply that sometimes now when we are not really the favorites in most games. Like, you have to do some of the things that are a bit weird, which is like sitting under the roof on short Inferno when you're 2A, because like, who does that? Like, nobody's gonna clear that, and you play with these lurks that have to take map control. So I think that's why sometimes it might look weird, but I also do think it's something that you see more from the underdogs rather than Brokey and FaZe, whereas their system sometimes he's way more passive as well, right? Because that works for them. So you can't play like that 2 games in a row on Inferno, because the second game you're gonna
exploit you.
Yeah, you're gonna get exploited.
The level of like anti-strutting now and looking at tendencies of players and stuff is fucking mental. Like, the travel from event to event has gotten less, right? And you do get more time. But this was part of the
And
conversation.
there's also
having,
like a coach, an analyst, assistant coach,
yeah,
external analyst for
practice leagues
hire.
everywhere. There's
Yeah.
more facilities now which are provided to make you play Counter-Strike more, which just inherently means that you have to develop your game more.
Yeah, we
So-
basically get the food catered to our room if we want, right? We can just sit at the PC and be zombies and digest CS all of the time.
Yeah, you just like plugged into that fucking matrix, like because like back in the early days, we didn't have prac rooms at events. You'd travel to an event, and the first time that you'd play would be when you were playing your match, right? Like, and now every event, as soon as you get there, in a lot of cases, the prac room's ready to go, and if it's not, people have good enough like laptops that they're watching, like Shadow
And they tweet about it being shit.
Yeah,
if it's not there.
Well, they definitely they let people know. Don't you worry about that. But yeah, okay. So the game's definitely developed.
I wanted to ask about that actually.
The development of the game?
No, because like Device was originally the guy that kind of put forward this idea of like watching heat maps and stuff like this. I remember back, this was like late 2016. I think it was like ECS season 2. I was doing an interview with you when you won and got the MVP. This was like the start of the Astralis era, like first signs. And then we spoke a bit about it. Then I was like, oh, I watched these heat maps, and then I kind of analyzed how the opponent's going to be playing and stuff like that. And people like, oh, what the fuck is this guy doing? This is like insane. But it feels like now everyone is doing at least that, if not more, right? What in terms of kind of prep for an opponent, do you have like any new tech gizmos? Because there's a shit ton of things nowadays.
There is a lot of things. Without going too much into the direct like details of it, like you look for patterns more than like you still have some players that if you just scroll through a heat map, like they have 4 spots that are red and the whole map is not touched otherwise, but not the AWPers. The good AWPers is like more for patterns. If you see CT setups, you see a pattern in the CT setups, and then you know where the AWP is positioning or what is open. And other than that, you just also in some sort of way shut down parts of the map so that the aggressors, which more so than often now is the riflers, feel more safe about going somewhere. But the anti-stratting is still definitely there, and for me, it's also more or less about having, like as I said, openings that I like to do on each map, because you're not gonna choose the perfect anti-strat time. You just have to do good openings that work in all rounds. So everything is more well thought through than before.
Is the prep still you, or do you rely on other people now more than before?
I mean, there's team prep and then there's the individual prep. And I think as an AWPer, it's not required, but I do my own prep for some stuff, which is just like spreadsheet of questions I just always want to have answered that the other guys don't necessarily need to know. And then sometimes you involve your teammates that play the CT spot, or you involve Glaive if it's a T side thing you want to do. But there's definitely still like, I think that's some of the things that work the best if you come up with something that you know is going to work in this game, and then the opponent knows that you have made your homework in some way.
Did you come up with a lot of those moves in face of Pugs?
I mean, no, honestly, Face It was like we were so good we could just run around and do whatever we wanted and win.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question about kind of like obviously you've played quite a bit in kind of like some of the CCT stuff and all that stuff, where there are teams that you're just not going to have so much prep on, you're just not going to be able to, even a lot of the time you play like open qualifiers, for whatever, for majors and stuff like that. You just play a lot of different teams. I'm curious about, like, from this kind of perspective, let's say, how often do you get surprised about what the other AWPer is doing at the tier 1 level? And how often do you get surprised when you play, like you were talking about Heat and Afro, that he just does things that doesn't respect these rules, like, is there a big difference? Is it like, how does it work for you?
I think the most noticeable difference is that the pressure of the LAN environment and the rules that are kind of set of how we choose to take risks as teams are different. So that's the biggest difference. Like the tier 2 AWPers, which is like tier 2, you say that, but like the difference is not that great. You saw it in, I don't know which qualifier it was, but 9 won IEM Brazil
Right.
qualifier.
Yeah.
And had like a 17 match win streak, and same with Aurora, which were 2 teams we like beat in the CCT tournament. So like sometimes these teams are really fucking good. Like they really are. But if you look at the AWPing in general, there's a bit more freedom and YOLO in the online CS. And I do also think that if you sit on LAN and you keep making like over peaks and stuff like that, and you get punished by it, your team is like right there. Whereas online, the repercussions might not feel as serious, even though they are. I think maybe there's some psychological aspect of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That could definitely be the case. You know, like when you have a teammate next to you who's just going to be pissed off that you just overpeaked and like lost them an up or lost them around. Makes sense.
Yeah, interesting angle there. I have an idea here, gentlemen. Do we want to do this? Do we want to do the quiz, and then what we can do is pivot into EPL discussion, but keep it like with Device and asking him questions about these teams
Yeah.
and what he
Sure,
thinks.
yeah.
Yeah. And then we
let's do
can
that.
just frame the discussion from that angle, and then we still
Yeah.
get through. Okay, nice. All right, Dimitri, are you ready to move to Skinionaire, my friend?
In there.
All right. Oh, he is. He's ready. He just pulls
Fast.
it out. All right, nice. I don't even
Maybe
need
even
it. That's
faster
great.
than Lucas.
Maybe,
might.
maybe. All right. So, Device, you remember this, right? You know what we're doing. We're doing a quiz. We're doing a bit of a fun quiz here. We got 5 questions. Every question you get correct, it'll move the little ticker up one at a time. And if we get all 5 correct, someone at home, a very lucky winner, could be getting a $50 skin brought to you by BitSkins. And this show we like to call the show we like to run called Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire? There we go. It's a mouthful. All right, let's get into question number.
We have a theme. We have a theme. It's it's kind of like you know, when you come back into school and then you have like a test of what you did before the break. This is the test. It's like
what happened?
Let's see how much you paid attention to last year.
Damn. All right, this is it. I like this. This is about to get a bit spicy.
Someone is not getting $50.
All right. Let's get into it. I'm excited for this one. Question number 1. Who was the MVP in C9's IEM Dallas win? Was it Shiro, Axile, or Shroud?
There's no point putting in a third player ever.
Yeah, Shiro, Exile. God damn, IEM.
This is where they beat FaZe, right?
They beat FaZe in
That's
the
like a
semis,
50-50.
and they
like,
beat ENCE after that.
In Who
Chad
Wants to
didn't tell
Be
you
a
that you can ask-
Millionaire?
You can ask me for help as well, just for like a call.
Do you have like the 50-50? It removes
Strikers
one
the
of
lifeline.
options.
Strikers your phone a friend.
Okay, I'm gonna use a lifeline on this. Yeah.
Striker,
Like,
who is it?
I'm like 95% sure it's Exile.
That's my gut feeling as well.
All right, you want to lock in Axile?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. I think it was Axile, right, Prof? He was
The destroyer of FaZe.
Yeah,
that clutch in connector, the 1v3 or something, where he spammed twist through the wood and then finished.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Honestly, one of my favorite plays.
That play right there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Nice. Fair enough.
That's my lifeline.
Yeah. No, you can use him every round. It's all right. We're a little bit we're nice over here. I like it. It's all Martin's money anyway.
I'll
so
try.
don't worry,
I'll try
don't worry
not to
about
give
it.
you the answers just like easily at least.
But let's see. Maybe it gets. Let's see what question 2 is. Maybe it gets easier than this one. Question number 2: Who earned their first top 20 medal in 2022? Yuri, Bit, or Frozen?
The first 2022. So Bit definitely had one. It must be Yuri. Like that's. Yeah. Yeah.
Striker doesn't look convinced here though.
He is not convinced.
It's his friend from the Czechoslovakian scene.
That's
it's his first. He must have been on the top 20 before that Frozen.
That's the thing.
He wasn't.
The thing.
No.
We take Frozen then.
Yuri farmed the online fucking 2020.
He was really Frozen was really
Wasn't he
close
good
twice.
in
Like once.
2019?
But
He
yeah, but
froze
he was
it.
like 21st, I think, in one of those
Yeah.
years. He was like
Oh.
25th or like somewhere just below the top 20 and then 21st on one of those years. So he barely missed out a couple
Mouse in
times.
2019 were really good.
Yeah.
The tail end, right? They won
Kerrigan.
Oh, the
Pro
Carrion
League, right?
team, yeah.
End of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the famous Glaive
Oh
desk
yeah.
smash. Yeah.
Oh, shit. That's a good.
I wanted to
good
ask
reminder.
you this. We know you're impartial to a bit of a love tap with the monitor, mate. You know, they're our friends. You know, you just
Yeah.
like to remind them that you're there. Do you get fined for that?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Ah, that fucking sucks.
It's expensive. It's like percentage of
Prize
what
money,
you
right?
win.
Really?
So it depends on how good you do. But
Can I,
yeah.
can I ask,
So-
what do you get? Do you get fined per punch or per damage, or like how does
Per
it- how
monitor,
does
I
it-
think.
Nothing has been nothing has been damaged. Nothing has ever broken. I actually had
Yeah.
a small fracture in my hand at
Oh.
one point,
Oh, Jesus.
but nothing happened to the monitor. So
But you still
it's
get
ju- it's-
fined just
it's
if you
just the
punch the
punch,
monitor.
yeah.
Yeah.
and
It's just a punch.
yeah, you can. I think yeah, but it's
Yeah.
fine. I stopped doing that.
I mean,
Let's
I mean,
raise,
after
see,
getting a
let's
fracture,
see.
maybe that's a good idea.
raise
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
hand if you never punched or hit any like PC equipment. Like throw a stone.
I can't raise my hand. I'm
No.
sorry.
No, I can't either.
Nope.
I also I have like actually if you look at this, like this finger
Oh my
goes
god,
like
that
this.
doesn't look.
What the
hell
And
of
this
it.
is this is actually normal. You could do this, but like this one doesn't really. It's kind of scuffed.
Definitely.
I
doesn't
can't do
look
Mine,
that
like
mine
well,
doesn't
that.
do that
I
either.
don't know.
There we
This,
go.
this is normal.
I think
It's not
think we
normally.
found out
It's
Prof-
really
Prof is
really
normal.
insane.
Oh shit! All right. Back to
2 for 2.
questions. Question number 3. Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
also forgot. Viewers at home, type BitSkins in chat if you want to win. What team made the playoffs at every event they attended in 2022? Was it Na'Vi, FaZe, or Heroic? I can tell you it wasn't FaZe.
Yeah, I know they've messed up in the Brazil stuff. My gut feeling is Heroic, but it's not true. It's not true. They failed the first event with Yappy, so it has to be Navi.
Oh,
that's really good logic
damn.
there. I like it a lot.
Bang! Lock it in
they
A for
fucked- They
Na'Vi.
fucked
They
Cologne.
fucked Cologne, yeah.
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 And correct answer is Na'Vi. All right, 3 from 3.
Yeah, I mean they kind of like it's kind of cheating because like they literally went out of the top 4 in the 2 blasts that they played at the end of the year. So it's playoffs technically in the format that
Yeah.
Blast uses, but it's basically a bad placing.
Yeah,
You know?
but
Yeah.
Cologne, everyone wrote them off. It was like, oh, Yabi was
Yeah,
a mistake.
trust the process. Trust the process.
All right, question 4. EPL season 16 saw which 2 teams clash in the grand final? Was it Vitality versus Ents?
Vitality Liquid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bang. Vitality won that one.
Was that? No, it wasn't. Which comeback was it? Wasn't it Vitality Liquid that had a comeback?
But
on
that was like
Overpass?
that was in
But that was
Katowice.
this.
Yeah.
this could have
That was so
was
Oh,
12-0?
crazy.
Overpass.
12-0, yeah.
Yeah. That's a hard
13-0,
one
I
to
think
live
even,
down.
no?
It's
Or was
like
it
that.
12-0? 12-0, I think maybe.
13,
Either way,
yeah.
it had never happened before. I know
Absolute
I know you
scenes.
said that, Striker. It never happened before.
It happened before. He didn't say that.
Not on,
it was
not on. It was just
It
on,
happens
like
very
somehow
rarely.
online.
It was
Never
never
happened
but
online.
it was rounding. It was rounding. So
Oh.
It
Okay.
actually is
Oh.
not necessarily
point.
like the way that works. By the way, just to explain,
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't
let's,
matter.
Let's just leave
Fair
the
enough,
how
let's
the
leave it.
sausage. No one wants to know how the sausage is made.
No.
All right, fine.
Never
fine,
happened
fine.
before.
Never happened before. There you go. See, I was right. Question number 5. Question 5. Yeah, question number 5. All right. Who was the highest rated player at the Illicit Masters SPU? Was it Crims, Blame F, or the Pious?
Gotta be God F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Confident?
Yeah, I actually am.
All right. I'm locking him in. I'm locking him
that's
in.
the event you skipped.
Yeah.
Correct answer is Blame F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was
Well,
the, okay? What was the reason behind you not playing at that tournament?
I mean, like that was already the deal. Like I basically had like 3 days of coming back to the team, so like didn't make any sense.
Okay.
I didn't want to play like right after. Just getting back, I think it would have not been that great.
Well, it could be
Alright.
more detrimental, right? Like if you start and everything's like in fucking shambles.
But then again, now you look at it in hindsight, we could have been at Katowice if I played that. So it's a bit like,
Right. Yeah, I could
Yeah.
have gotten you some points, right?
yeah. So it like it wasn't maybe that the best decision for me.
Right.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I think didn't Blame
did
it like fucking destroy that tournament? Wasn't it like something ridiculous, like 1.4 or some shit?
I mean, isn't that his average rating in these
Yeah.
tournaments, like all the time?
a farmer, we should call him. Just out
Blame
there-
farmer.
Yeah, just out there farming them.
Blame farmer.
What do
There we
we got here? Where were we? Oh, the winner. The winner is
did we win?
newer. Yeah, we got 5 out of 5. I'm pretty sure it was right. Yeah, we were right. Yeah,
Yeah.
5 out of 5. Yeah, we were too busy. We knew it was right. We
That's a
basically
Finnish
left the
guy
whole
if you've
fucking
ever
question.
that's a Finnish name if you've ever seen one.
I can't
say it.
Nuori
Yeah.
Talentti.
Okay,
New
with the
talent,
accent.
22.
Nice, and he has been following since February of 2021. So congratulations to Mr. Finland. Talenti. That was a bit more
It's
Italian.
I think it's-
Sergey's fake account.
Ah,
Talent.
we haven't seen him in a while.
Whose
Okay.
account?
Sergey's.
Sergey.
Oh.
what is it?
Yeah, yeah.
I heard
yeah.
Chris J. Haven't heard
Oh.
about him in a while.
We haven't had from
either.
Chris J in a while either. Yeah, no, either would have worked.
I want to
okay.
know when the player break is. CSPPA. Let's go.
Yeah,
think the
you can
players-
ask in the WhatsApp if there's any members left.
Oh.
Okay.
Really?
I don't know. I have never been a part of it.
Okay. Well, it could be falling apart at the seams here. It could all be. But what I've heard here, Prof, and this is I don't know if this is a bombshell or not, but I've heard that the players are trying to get the player break back to where it was before.
I heard
Please.
the same thing. And it seems honestly like a very weird decision.
Like,
I like that it's split, so we have the equal amount of tournaments.
yeah,
But if you have some sort of family or anything that you want to do something with, they like my girlfriend has exams entire June. Like
Yeah.
we can't go on vacation. Like it's impossible.
I think
Yeah.
it'll shift once Counter-Strike players start getting paid multi-million dollars a year. When it shifts to that, like we're talking like, several $1,000,000 a year, because then you can just pay for your entire family to not have to
Yeah.
worry about anything else.
Yeah.
And then we can
Then-
change the player break to bang smack middle of the year.
What you're saying
Yeah.
is pay us more, and then you can have your break. That's
No,
fine.
yeah, but seriously, that is like a genuine
Yeah.
give and take of the scenario, right? Like if the scene ever does scale to a point where there's just millions of dollars flying around like that, then it doesn't really matter when the break is because everyone can just afford to have their entire family free whenever the fuck they want.
Private
like that-
planes and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. I don't know when
Crazy.
we're gonna get there. Probably not anytime soon. But when Counter Strike does get there, let's say in, I don't know, fucking 30 years from now, it'll all be all right. We can.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll still be doing this, but you never know.
Hopefully.
Yeah, 63-year-old Chad doing fucking commentary for Counter Strike.
it would be fucking amazing.
Yeah.
With your you only have your translated hair,
Yeah,
but everything else is falling apart.
Front. Holy shit! I stopped doing this. Oh fuck it out. All right, they're getting grim for me now. Jesus, visualizing myself as a
Bro.
60-year-old man.
Chad going absolutely parasocial at the moment.
Yeah, they go buck
Classic.
wild a little bit.
Classic.
All right, let's jump around to here a bit. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at EPL through the lens of device, and we're gonna ask you questions to see what your take on some of these things are. Right, like you look at Cloud9, you look at an Orpal like Shiro. Is he someone who's the demos you've been watching a lot of on the comeback?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And he did amazing at this tournament. Like
Oh yeah.
he is a below 0.5 depths per round, I think, which is low. He doesn't die, but he still has immense impact. I think that's ideally what the AWPer needs to do. Like you can have a low depth per round, but it has to correlate with your impact. And your impact doesn't necessarily mean just impact rating, but the impact you have, which is when you judge it match by match, stats doesn't do its justice. But if you look at stats over a long period of time, it will show you.
Man, Peter would be proud of that sentence right there. That is that is those
yeah.
are the basics of stats for sure.
So, like you look at, well, I don't know. I
actually I have a question. I know how to frame this question. So we had I'd say 5 or 6 new top AWPers in the last 2 years come up, and I think Shiro, Monasi, Brokey, Dexter. Who am I missing? Let's say these 5.
Yeah.
You probably watched all of them play. What do you see from each of these guys that kind of stands out? What do they bring that makes them essentially so good? They aren't in the top 10, right? Randomly, they're pretty good in what they do.
I mean, like we just have to take one common thing in the beginning is like the clutch factor. I think that's something you've seen more and more in AWPers. Like previously, it's always been a little bit there with Fallen and stuff, right? But you are thrown into clutches a lot more as the AWPer now because you set your team up for executes, and especially like Brokey, Monacy, like all of them, Dexter. You can just see the highlight reel when you say their name in the clutch situations. I think Monacy is like gonna be one of the greatest that's ever touched CS. Like his mechanical skill is absurd. Like it's a bit more clean than what you see with Symbol, where Symbol just has more flair. It's like when you see Symbol, he does impossible things. Monacy does that as well, but it's kind of different with the mouse movements. It's like very technical because of the sensitivity that's different and stuff.
What's the difference in sense? I'm not
I think
really a
Monacy
person
is
of-
like at 2 and Symbol is like
3.5 or something.
3.09. Yeah. And so like Symbol has this
the
you say
shape.
like the shake. Monacy is very clean and very snappy with the flicks. He almost has like a Santeris AWP. Like Santeris is also very snappy with his flicks. So like Monacy is for me what I see is like the next big top 1 player. Dexter, I still feel like I'm talking to him a lot. He's one of my friends, and I think he still has something to learn, but he's also really good. Like there are so many CIS AWPers that are good. You can just go through the list of Deco and so on, who is supposedly not a very friendly player. But you know, and Rogi as well. I think he fits perfectly. Same with Shiro. They fit like into the team so perfectly that they are. Those two in special are very good at like when you execute. They are like trade fragging with the AWP. That's one of the things that is really hard for me. Like quick zoom trade fragging is something that I'm working on, which is quite new. You run in as the third guy with the AWP and you have to like trade. So there's all like everyone is good at the same thing, but also it also depends on how their team looks.
What do you think of the way James conducts business?
I love it, honestly. Like, but I'm also I love different styles of CS. Like that you can play different styles of CS and have success. Like if you look at Outsiders and Heroic, they play very different CS. Outsiders like to stack. Heroic are always info pushing on the CT side, and it's such a fun dynamic that you can have these two styles have success at the same time, and like they're just statistically making it so that they play Inferno when they have their first weapon round. They're never gonna have an eco again, almost, like, you know what I mean? And that's annoying to play against. So I understand like the criticism when it doesn't work and they lose games and you're sitting at maybe 4 deaths and it's 16-7. Like it looks weird, but I think that he's doing what, in his opinion, is the best way to have a chance of winning every round.
There's actually a question that I have that is very tied to that, which is Harry just had like a piece in the works, which is basically about saving and like what teams are the most save heavy, what players are the most save heavy, and stuff like that. I mean, there's going to be no surprise there in terms of Outsiders and where they ranked in that, which is by far the most, and Jay by far the most. But what I found curious about it was that you are very far down the list in terms of like AWPers and saving. You know, there's kind of like a big link between AWPers and clutching, especially you were talking about that earlier, you know, that you set up your team a lot more. But from like stats from like I think the Blast Spring groups, you only saved like 8% of the lost rounds, while for James it's like 25%, and Dexter is like almost 20% or something like that. So like compared to those AWPers, you save a lot less. And you know, it's just for you, there's just one tournament because we haven't seen you play a lot. So I don't know if this is like an actual, like if we can consider this a trend, but I'm curious about what you think about this.
I also do view myself as I want to be more aggressive than the meta. Like that was like you kind of look at the meta and how the game is played, and from when I was considered the most passive AWPer, like in our greatness, like I was never this passive. Like I still feel like we're playing with the best gun in the game, and you only need to hit one shot. So I also view it as in some sort of way. Like I think that if I play a bit more aggressive, it there's room for that. And also coming back to what Afro has been doing, like for his teams, I know it's a gimmick thing to mention, but I just like I've seen what the AWP can do and the impact it can have. If it's not just played as a we have an AWP, so you have to respect it, but you also use it in every round and try to really get kills with it. So that's probably the reason, but I think I have to land more. I have to save a little bit more, maybe. I also still have some rust on when to not go for situations, and like people are just getting better at after plans. So maybe like sometimes you just have to concede that, and so I think landing in somewhere in the middle of also trying to be a little bit more aggressive than some of the other guys, but also when the time is to save, then you have to do it. Sometimes you want to get that one kill that punishes the economy and looks a little bit good as well on the scoreboard in some way. Everyone knows it. I think the reason why people are a bit mad about the saving part is that you have an influx instead of what you say, like
Right.
inflation and stats by it. So if it's the stats are not measured into it, it doesn't maybe impact so much more than it's a bit boring. Like an Inferno game with 8 saves on each half is like a game takes 1 hour 20 minutes almost to get played, and I that's also bad for the spectators, in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you think it also comes down to kind of what you're like, how important you are to this team at the moment in terms of like the output? You know, we were talking about like you and Blame F being kind of like the two big carries. Is there kind of like pressure from that from you as well to just have like very direct impact in that sense?
Not necessarily pressure, but it's something that I like. I like that I don't have to play a role that is more passive than it is. I do think there's maybe some truth to it being at one of our success criterias, but it's also just better for me to not be put in like I don't necessarily think I would perform as good as Brokey does doing what he does. Like so he's maybe also a player that fits more into that role of being a little bit more passive, which probably only is because of the team is built that way.
I feel like every time Brokey hears someone say he's a passive AWPer, the next event he comes out and he's just pushing through every smoke like an absolute machine.
Yeah.
Maybe here you're going to inspire him to get back out in the old pushing Brokey ways here.
But that's
I
like it's also the definition of passive, because we also
Yeah, exactly.
often want to say like passive because he's not involved in the openings of the rounds, not in terms of like he doesn't move at all or he's a fucking turret, right?
Yeah.
He's very dynamic.
His dynamic is more mid-roundy 3v3, you know, pushing through. He, especially when he was doing his best, when he won the MVPs last year, when he was like really reading the situation and finding the gaps in the mid round. But he was still posting like 12% opening duel, like not win rate, but like attempt rate in his
Attempts.
team. And you right now, for example, you're around 20%, and like Blame F is the only one I think in your team that's higher. Like most of the AWPers, even Monacy, that you feel like is doing a lot of openings, is still like I think under 15%
I
for
don't
this
think
year.
Monacy is doing way more than Brokey, just for when you look at the demos. I just think that if you look at Nuke as a whole, if you take that as an example, like you have Nico playing the yard position, that's aggressive role. Monacy is kind of the guy that goes between every parts of the map, and some rounds he's offensive. Same with Brokey. It's just like how the game is played by different teams. So if Nico is the guy that's playing offensive yard, Monacy can't go for a pick indoor. Like it just doesn't make sense for the team dynamic. So like that's why AWPers are more passive in stats or in because like we have to play the game under the rules and not just like run around and puck. So it's not that they are passive by nature. I just think that it fits the teams that has base creating players on more parts of the map, maybe something like that, if you know what I mean.
But it's also just much more difficult for AWPers to be the ones who are like creating openings, because people are just much more different, like much better at utility and just making sure
They
they
know
clear
the
the angles
openings,
right.
yeah.
And so like you just don't have as many opportunities to get those openings, like especially in Nuke, like you have a smoke wall and fucking yard every other
Yeah.
round basically. Like you can't be outside and try to look for picks.
For sure.
Yeah.
I wanna pivot. Like I'll keep it in this EPL universe we have right here with asking these questions. So we can return to Cloud9, sure, but
I think Prof is raising his hand.
oh,
I'm
sorry,
doing
Prof.
I'm doing the potfriend because people are spamming
Oh,
Oh,
the
okay,
potfriend.
all right.
There we go. Is
There
this
you go.
it?
okay. I
Like-
thought you wanted to ask a question or something.
There you go.
I wanted to ask who you consider the best team in the world right now.
Ooh, right on the spot. E2.
Is that from the type of Counter-Strike they're
Lows.
playing, or where they're at in the rankings? Like, do you think they look like the best team when you watch them play?
I think the final against Heroic did some mistakes that cost them more than people credit them for. So
Okay.
I think it's a very close between those two. And then I simply just don't know where FaZe and Navi are at, to be honest. But those two teams are the best. I think Hooksy is doing an amazing job at letting the individuals do their thing on the CT side. And if G2 is having individual success, they're gonna be a contender for every tournament. Like that's just how it is. Heroic is more tight knit team that everyone can almost do anything on that team, and the way they play, I think that they remind me sometimes of us when we lost all of those semifinals. They're just maybe losing the finals. It's just like getting over that final hurdle of maybe a mental side of it. I don't know, but they are really close all of the time. So between those two, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, that's a nice little way to perceive Heroic, though, right? Like, and if they do have that mental breakthrough in the positive fashion, right? Maybe who knows how good they could be, right? Because the way that they play Counter Strike, it's hard to capture that lightning in a bottle every time.
I mean, it's if you go back to like 2015, right, and say, or late 2014, early 2015, and say like, this Astralis, TSM, whatever team, if they could only be like this much better, what could be? And then they won like 4 majors. So I feel like, is it the same potential for Rourke? I feel like probably the scene is a bit more packed now.
Yeah,
and it would be harder to like establish that kind of dominance without like a giga superstar player. And I feel like even I don't think they even have a device, not a simple, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but I do. That's what works in their like
favor, right?
Yeah, I do think so in some way, because everyone sacrifices for everyone in all times for them, and that is what sometimes is beautiful for if you watch the game as a enjoyer of the team. Like you can really see that is a team. Like they'd go to war for each other, if you understand what I mean. Like so that's the beautiful part of that. But I think Stown is also probably just in a small little bit of slump, so he'll probably get great again soon. I do think he has star potential, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, he's kind of especially the final was a little bit quiet. Okay, do we want to dig into anything else that really happened at EPO here, Prof Striker? Like,
I mean, there was the whole like G2. I think the one thing that I kind of wanted to ask, or I'm not even sure how to take it, but like just the way that G2 can disappear, because we saw not only the Cloud9 but the Nuke one against Fnatic as well, just where they just don't show up, and that's the G2 that we haven't seen so far. That's kind of like the first time, and I'm not entirely sure I know how. Like in the Cloud9 series, it was kind of like a combination of Hero just being fucking insane, like he double 30 bombed on them basically and just was killing everybody. And then, Nico having one of his worst maps, and also like none of the other individuals really having a good game. But it's crazy that we saw G2 just all around shut down this much.
Yeah.
I want to, can I ask you with what Striker said, but put it in this kind of framing device? Like, you've been in a team that's been dominant, right? You know what it feels like to be like at the best and going from event to event. is there any framing that comes into the thought process when you go to an event like this where, hey, we just need to get through to the playoffs? Does that affect the quality of the Counter-Strike that's being played there? Or is it still like, hey, we should win everything in the same fashion? Like, at least from your perspective.
Like, you treat every game the same, but I do think that subconsciously, like, you know that we are happy if we make the playoffs. Like, I do think that plays a part. Also because they know if we are in the playoffs, it's every game is a win, and you go through, lose, you out. That's a little bit more serious. It's easier to deal with those games because the consequences are clear. So yeah, definitely plays a part. I do think the C9 game, they won the veto. They prepped the best. They had the best individual performance. Like, you can just check everything off on how you look at a good performance. So it made sense that they won that game, in my opinion.
Right.
And looking at the nuke streak that they lost, I think that honestly, I have no idea what happened that game. I'm just happy that it didn't break our nuke.
I mean, they
streak.
were pretty fucking far from that, no?
Yeah,
Wasn't it like
but
29 for you guys or something like that?
actually, I don't know, but yeah, I think we at least went a year or something like that without winning on or losing on nuke. I mean,
So you guys were
Um,
31 and 0. Oh yeah, you were one
there's
map
some
off
online stuff
of
in there,
breaking
wasn't
the
there?
NIP one. I might
Yeah.
have been. I don't remember.
There was
We
two
lo-
different numbers again.
yeah,
Yeah, possible.
31, I think.
But 31, the NIPs is 32-0 and yours was 31. The Bronze
That
broke
was
it.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you also had like an Inferno streak at the same time. It was
yeah.
19-0.
17. Yeah. And then
I
you lost
have
the
a list.
big of all teams, right?
We lost to the Orcs of Inns. That's what I remember on nuke. That was a crazy game. And
Oh,
we,
that was Blast.
in
Madrid?
in Madrid, and we missed through the first smoke, the smoke and yard when you do the wall. I think a lot of times in that game. That was just like, when you watch it back, it's just like it shouldn't have happened.
Aerial
Um,
farming, easy MVP.
Yeah, that was a shame that they fell apart. But yeah, just returning to G2, like in that game, I don't know. But what matters for me is like their recovery. That's what you can see. Like, they have the mental aspect settled, and they have the sixth gear they could just switch into when it matters, right? So I think that was quite interesting to see that, at least. That, okay, yes, you might have taken a streak that could have made them fragile or vulnerable, but they just smashed Fnatic after that.
Yeah, I think it's important that they got that Fnatic win afterwards as well on Vertigo, because I think, people might have seen Vertigo as a massive weakness for them, but then they just had two really like convincing victories on it. Obviously against lower teams, but it's still not such an obvious weakness. That Cloud9 game might have made a lot of teams think that.
Yeah,
Plus, we don't know what to expect with Cloud9 completely yet either.
Right.
Like, it's a hard conversation with Cloud9 with this whole. They obviously look better here, but
Yeah.
you don't
from
see
event
them
to
that
event.
often.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's hard for them as well if you have 2 long periods between tournaments. Like, to be switched on when you have to is hard sometimes when you've just been practicing, because practice games is very different.
I was going to say, do we want to jump and do a bit of a preview of Group B, or do we want to do it this N1 moment?
We have to do the N1 moment.
Let's do the
right?
N1 moment then.
Because
So,
we have to.
are you ready? It's a good N1 moment, right? I think I know what it is. Let's bring up the N1 moment here, Dimitri. Now, wait, is that it? I thought the N1 moment was the CSGO tweet.
No?
What is the CSGO tweet?
Oh, we'll do the CSGO tweet after. It's right. We could do this one as well.
Okay.
This
one's good.
No, this is a funny one. So yeah, more people kind of bodying EG as it is. So after IHC won their game against EG in the last chance bracket to eliminate them in last place, I went up to each member of IHC for an interview, just quick stuff, because I know that they
not
every
very
time I
talkative
see them,
boys, are they?
even when I was walking over the mic, they were like, Blitz was like, I don't speak English. I was like, I know you speak English. Like, I've sat there, I've spoken with you. Like, just give me a little bit.
I saw the bit where like during the lobby, the feature that you kind of do where you just like walk around during media day and stuff like that. Stana went to the airport to like greet IHC.
Yeah.
And that whole segment is like, oh, I'm gonna greet IHC. I'm waiting for them. There's the sign. And then they show up and it's like 5 seconds of content and it's over. Like they didn't give him anything. It was so funny. Just like thinking of how this is like, oh, great idea. We're gonna greet them, and then they go to the airport. They wait there. This is like a 2-3 hour process for like 5 seconds of content.
Now, Prof,
Amazing.
did you ever consider that we knew we weren't going to get a lot from them, so we needed to turn it into something a little bit more engrossing for the viewer? Because every lobby video we've done, there's been a comment, where are IHC? The amount of times that we've talked to IHC and not been able to get anything from the conversation is every time. So,
Over 10,000. Yeah.
so now that we've got something from them, it was great. Like, and I think I don't know if Henry ended up playing Blitz in chess. I don't know if that ended up happening.
That would be a
But
content piece.
yeah, but if it did, it should be content. I'll tell you that much. And the Annihilation one at the end, it was like I was like, he was so down. I was like, but you just won. And then the comment about, yeah, I'm happy, but it's just EG. It's like, man, EG can't catch a break right now. Like that one really hurt.
The funniest thing is like
Yeah.
I don't think he wasn't like purposely BMing. He was just
No.
being realistic. Like EG are not a good team. We're not really proud of beating EG. And he didn't mean in a bad way. It's just like these are facts. And that makes it even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see
Bad
this
times.
device? Did you see
Yeah, I
it?
saw it live. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, like, you have to also have a little bit of not empathy, compassion, maybe for
Yeah.
EG. Like, it's tough. They can catch a break, but it was funny, as you said. It felt kind of like legit, if you can say it. Like, it was just like, yeah, but it's just EG.
Yeah, just a statement of fact.
He wasn't going out of his way to like talk shit or anything. Like it also showed like a different side of IHC, right? Something that we don't traditionally get to see. So I think that was cool. But that's a good N1 moment. Now this is what has been brought up here for. Well, this is the tweet I wanted to get. Yeah, but basically,
Is this like an N2 moment or what?
The
N2.
N2 moment. We continue to break records, right? So I thought this tweet from CSGO dev account, or just the CSGO account now, it doesn't have the dev at the end. I thought this was fucking great. This is poetry, right? This is Counter-Strike right here. So the question about why people keep playing after the game's been out for 10 years, and this is what some lovely individual at Valve wrote, because it takes minutes to understand and a lifetime to master, and the more you invest, the greater your returns. The feeling when everything comes together never gets old. Whether it's a one tap, a perfect spray, a new piece of util, an ace, or a clutch, it's Counter-Strike. And it's like, man, like that's fucking sick. Like that right there. You could go so deep on all of the layers of all of that.
You just make that like the like not a review, but like an explanation of the game. Like when you go and buy it or like download it or whatever, you can literally just put that there.
To be honest, it doesn't even capture the whole like community aspect, like, right? Because it's also, for me, it's so much about the team, right? And the people, the friends, whoever you're playing with. There's that whole level of development, like, I like learn a flash, then I throw the flash for a friend, then he gets a kill, then you win the round, you learn a new smoke or whatever, all of these things that kind of play into one another. And it's not even just about you winning the clutch, it's like seeing your friend win the clutch and everyone's like super hyped. And CS just continues to deliver amazing moments.
Yeah, injected. And also, just as you said, it's what makes it magic, and I think it's the perfect combination of you're able to see the raw skill when you watch it and you play it, and you enjoy also like having that moment where you can just feel like I'm the best. Everyone has had a live game.
Yep.
And I think that combined with how well you need to work with your team is just like, it doesn't come close to any other game I've ever played, or even like you can compare it with sports, in my opinion, because you have all of the aspects needed for it to be what I would consider as one of the toughest thing to do. Not physically, but on all other aspects.
Yeah, it's fucking brilliant. It's brilliant.
Very
lads,
relatable game.
Everyone happy with this one. Volvo done good with this one here. Okay. I bet. Do we want to do a quick fire Group B preview, or do we want to do just questions for the viewers and what we've
We
got
should
left
actually
over?
ask him about like the future. I think that's
that's
more important than anything else.
I imagine trying to win.
Yeah, the future. Yeah, that's a big question in the next few months or the next year, or Like,
Let's talk
What's the
about this year.
timeline? What's
Let's
the
talk about this
timeline for
year.
Astralis?
I mean, like for us right now, it's EPL. Definitely expecting us to go through the group one way or another. I think that it's a very forgiving, what do you say, like way of they've made
Format?
the groups. Yeah, format
Yep.
exactly. So that's the expectation at least. We have the RMR, which is coming up in Copenhagen, which is also a big deal for the org and the players. They missed some of them the last time in the org, and I've not missed the major I wanted to compete in. That's I can still say that, even though I've missed two, and I don't want to break that streak as well. So that's the next two things that are in line for us. We've had a good practice period because we had the last group, and after that it's the major. And I think unfortunately we're not even going to be at Brazil or Dallas because the rankings we've not been like don't have the points yet.
Because there's a qualifier for Dallas, from what I'm looking at. There's like
Yeah,
two
Rio's already
spots.
over, but Dallas there are some
Dallas
qualifiers
is
in.
like it's in the middle of the major, so it depends on the result there. But it would be nice to have Dallas and then Washington right after, because they're just back to back, which is something we qualify, like the blast we qualified for.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's like the first season here, and I think we have evaluation obviously all the time, but after the first half of the year we'll look at what's realistic. But our goal is to be like contenders for tournaments, right? And that's not the case right now, and that's understandable. But that's where we want to be at. I don't think that it's realistic to aim for being dominant as we were before. But the most satisfaction you can have as a team and as players is going into the tournament believing you can win it and believing you are contenders, and then it's all up to the performance, which is like you always want to win, but the other team does as well. And if you play a team that has better performance at the day, you can still be satisfied but lose.
How are you feeling though, mate? Like, what level of device do you think currently exists below the surface?
I mean, like, I think I said it in an interview also. I think I can still be better. There's a lot of adjusting for the team level but it's getting better. Like, I feel more and more confident. I feel way more level in balance in some sort of way, and that's what makes me the most happy. Like, my individual feeling of the first half year was also just adjusting individually all the time, and making sure that I enjoy it. And for me, it's the most like enjoyable phase almost in my career, because it's very challenging and it's very new. And so yeah, I mean, I can still get better individually, but it's also not so much about the individual stuff. Like, I don't care if I have a bad tournament if we reach our goal. Obviously I want to do good as well, but I just want the team to succeed, and everyone at Astralis obviously also wants that. So yeah, excited for the season, and excited to get going as well. So it's not just talk, but also
something to back
gameplay.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chad, just to say, we don't really have good viewer questions, so
Everyone
we don't really
failed.
we don't really like it's I don't want to say they're
We have
not
a
good,
whole
but
community and
you
nobody
know,
asked a good
people
question.
generally ask questions like that you kind of use in the conversation, right?
Sure.
It's like, oh, what do you think about this? How did this happen? Blah blah. But like when we ask for questions that we would highlight, it would need to be like a very specific question that's like something that people didn't think about and that we wouldn't normally ask about. So I think we don't really need to go in that. So just like we throw our own stuff.
All right, yeah, I know
I have one.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about like individual goals and form and stuff like that. Like last year, Simple finally overtook you for the MVP record, which is now he's on 21, you're on 19. Do you feel like seeing Simple's form this year not the best? Do you feel like you could kind of snatch that back? Is that kind of something that obviously, like tournament results are number one, but it's kind of maybe a additional motivator, a factor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you always take everything that comes with doing good, and winning obviously is a contributing factor to getting MVPs, right? So first of all, if we can get back to winning and being contenders, that's gonna put me in a place where there's a chance of me doing that. Um, Nothing but respect for Symbol. I think like maybe I can do it. It's also hard to say where he's at. I think they've just played 2 tournaments, and he might be a slow starter. Usually that's Saiwu, right? He's a slow starter, and so yeah. For me, I'm just focusing on, like, honestly, on getting the team back to what we want to be, and everything that comes with that individually is just I don't know, like it's just a testament of you doing your hard work. So if it happens, it happens. I'm gonna be really happy for that. And he's younger than me, so he's probably gonna get it back at one point. But other than that, it's just about the team.
It probably like I have no idea how this feels, so I'm asking a question here. But it, it from the way I would look at this, it feels like that you already have the trophy cabinet full of personal accolades and the biggest things that anyone can accomplish in Counter Strike. Nobody's close to what the legendary Astralis team has ever done, right? So I guess to be able to build up another team and be successful again of any success is probably a better feeling, right? Like that you want to win, obviously, but the idea of building another team up to be able to win trophies and be competitive again, like that's kind of what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I do also think for me coming back, showing that it's not a life sentence to struggle with stuff individually. It's not going to hinder you from doing what you want to achieve, even after being at rock bottom. I think that's something that motivates me as an individual more so than the individual stuff. That's at least something that I can feel when I say it. It gives me power from within. And yeah, as you said, like bringing Astralis back on the map as well is something that matters. I was a part of starting the organization back then with some of the other guys, and it obviously has a special place for me. There's still a lot of the people that work there I've known for so many years, and it's a journey with some of those people as well, and everyone wants us to have the success. And ultimately, like what sports organizations want and need is performance. Like you don't sell any merch, you don't do well in sponsor deals. Like everything is almost tied up to performance, and that's our job, and that's what I'm focusing on.
Okay, nice. Uh, do you feel like with everything that happened, and then you taking some time away, and then being able to focus on yourself a bit more in all of that, you kind of fell back in love with Counter Strike in a way? Because I imagine after a while, it's like, okay, this is work. But then with you just playing for fun, like you saying how you like, decoupled it and you lent into Counter Strike, reignited the passion to play all the time.
Yeah, definitely. It was never the intention, but it was what happened, and it creates you get obsessed with it again as you were when you were young, and it's everything in a good way, because I also know that I need the balance. So I'm still now found the love for it again, and I know the complexity of being able to be Nikolai and be Device at different times, to actually be the best version of Device, which for me is what like I think what you dedicate your life to should really be something that you just have pure passion for. And obviously that fades sometimes, but for me right now it's more so than I can ever recall.
Yeah, nice, nice. Yeah, that's the thing. Like this is playing the game and wanting to play the game. That's what this is all about, right? Like that. If people don't have that, I don't think it's hard to be successful at anything you do if you're not like actually into it, because you kind of feel like you're posing, right? Like you're
Yeah.
doing it for different reasons as opposed to just actually loving it. So it's kind of really important. It's actually probably the most important thing I would say. Lads, we got any questions here we want to hit in with? Anything? So I can bring up this Group B bracket just quickly, and we can quickly fly through it. And Dimitri has it ready to go. I'm not
We can
getting
do
a
that,
nod.
or
Yeah,
or you can talk about Group D, Group Device.
Yeah.
yeah, but
That's
like
our group.
he'll have to talk about his opponents. You want to talk about your opponents?
Maybe not.
This way, at least
Yeah,
you can be a
we
bit more
can't-
candid with
yeah,
Group
we
B.
can't-
Honestly,
Yeah.
we had Sticko last time. Did you see that we cursed him? Like he cursed himself.
Yeah,
He was
you
talking
can.
about He was talking about Gamer Legion. He was like, we smashed them 2-0 last time, and then they played like 2 days later and got smashed 2-0.
Yeah, but that's also in that environment you play each other all the time. Like
Yeah.
we haven't faced Force and Spirit and Navi who are in our bracket in a long time. So we'll keep everything to ourselves right now, and in regards to that, I think so.
Well, what about this, right? So Group B for me seems pretty cut and dry. Heroic is the best team in the group. They should be top in the group, but maybe they
Yeah.
have an upset loss and they have to end up doing what
Is
G2
that
did.
Imperial for real?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. I wanted to ask, because I
Right.
know Fury have been staying boot camping. Have you played much against Fury?
Yeah, a few scrims here and there. They are still
Crazy.
very, special.
Furious.
Special is a good way to put it.
Yeah, they also treat the game differently. But yeah, it's we've played them on different maps and they still look good. I'd say that more so than ever in this era of CS, individual skill is just so much like determining your wins or loses. So I think that them staying in Europe makes a lot of sense to get the highest quality practice.
Okay. Yeah. No, it makes, and that's why we're hoping IHC gets to hang around for a while longer, get a bit more high caliber practice in for those lads. They're looking good. What about Mouse? Like, I think Mouse are in this similar bucket as a Fnatic, right? They did good at the major last year. They come into this year for Katowice, it's And like, are they a team that you think's legit?
I do think both Mouse and Fnatic are legit teams. Yeah, I do so. Mouse a bit younger in some categories, but they also have that team feeling. When you look at a team and they feel like they like each other, they get along, they work well, they grind a lot of CS, which is important. So I do see them as definitely going through this group for sure.
Cool. All right. I guess like in terms of like the I think it's curious to see if Furia can hold on to being the best Brazilian team this year, and we'll see where Imperial's at with their obviously
Upgrades, yeah.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a curious one there to
What did
dip our
they
toes
change?
into.
I have to look.
They got
Jota?
Jota and Cello, right? And they've both kind of come in dribs and drabs over recent history here, but now they have the two of them, and those two when they're in MIBR were like the aggressive riflers. So they've got those two now. I guess.
Jota is actually, he's at least really, really, really good in my opinion.
It's gonna be. Look, I still don't know what to expect here. I'm still like, is Fallen able to opening game lead at the highest level of Counter-Strike, right? And
This is really not. I don't feel like this. I wanted to say it's not gonna break viewership records, but then they have two
their
Brazilian
matchup.
teams.
It probably will. Yeah.
So fuck me, right? But
Yeah.
I don't. It's not. This is not the group that I'm
exciting
gonna be
part.
watching too much. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna.
I want to see you at 7:30 on Wednesday night, Prof. Tuning in with your popcorn in front of the telly to watch Fallen take on Art. All right.
Furia Imperial, yes, but like with the rest of the games, it's like, who am I? Like, what am I actually gonna be excited about? Like another
So the
heroic
segments in
complexity
between.
game. Honestly, yes. Honestly, pretty good.
But isn't it
Props
also
to-
more so than when you look at this, you want to watch the make it or break it games sometimes? Like that's
Yeah.
how I feel.
Yeah.
I end up watching it all, but when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, at least I want to watch the upper final and I want to watch the.
I love the Fnatic Eternal Fire game last night. That was
Yeah,
like,
it was
That was
amazing.
nice.
that was great. That was great because you really feel like something's on. It's like either they go through or not, right?
It was
And-
high stakes.
And it was kind of a balanced matchup despite the ranking and everything. You feel like Eternal Fire in pretty good shape, and you want to watch a game like this because you also know how much it means for Eternal Fire if they win this. Fnatic, yeah, it means, but at the same time as they're kind of expected to go through. So it was a fucking good game.
I'm going to pat ourselves on the back here, though, lads, because for the whole week up until that point, we didn't treat games that didn't have too much stock as if they had more stock than they had. I didn't treat an opening round game of a triple elimination event and like it meant the world, because the viewer knows that it does it.
Yeah.
So just be genuine with them. And then when we get to the games that matter, like the game the upper final where it was Cloud9 versus Outsiders, sure, they both already were through the playoffs, but there's a bit more in that, right? And they're playing for a seeding position. It's two good teams, right? Or any of the elimination games, you give it the respect that it's due. And that's key here, because what you guys just said is bang on. You can't fucking put lipstick on a pig. You just be honest with people, and
and what do you do with the pig?
You can kind of you can do
you
that,
kiss
know,
the
but-
pig once it's got lipstick on, of course, Prof. That's of course. That's why you put lipstick on it. But
Take some photos, upload to Instagram.
But it's glad that it did, like that game was hype. Like it went late last night. Don't get me wrong. I'm fucking staying up watching it, but it was hype.
But that's
like,
the thing. Like I was planning to go to sleep, but then I was like,
Yeah.
what is going on? I'm not gonna go to sleep and see the result in the morning. I want to see what's happening. Like Eternal Fire making this insane T-side comeback, right? So
that
great
Mezzi
game.
round as well through the smoke. Well,
Bro,
it was on the
it's
cusp of the
The
smoke.
Crims
It's
round
the
was
Crims
crazy.
round,
Yeah.
man. It's the Crims round. How the fuck does he pull that? I know, like Major tweeted like he failed, whatever, but Crims has no right to do that. Has no right. Not in his age.
Oh.
Like, bro, he's not like a 12, 18-year-old, whatever. Aim star,
Hey, if it was 12,
whatever.
it'd be a fucking phenom.
It'd be
If it was-
okay.
It's like, I don't know.
Oh shit. Okay, yeah, I don't think we need to jump too much more into this group discussion, do we? I
No.
think that's pretty. Yeah, I think we've
Me,
done
it's
it.
exciting to see complexity.
You liking
like-
him? You liking
yeah.
watching him play?
I think that I've told my team that they are a young upcoming team as a
Yeah?
prediction. Yeah.
Okay.
I like them.
Damn, you're gonna help their confidence out a lot with that comment.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe not if they play us, but I do think that I see some of the signs that you see when teams like kind of grow together and get better. They
They're
have
making the
a
right
lot of-
moves.
yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right. Gentlemen, are we done?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Final
Yeah.
thoughts.
Final thoughts. Anonymo have disbanded. More breaking news this evening. Poor Anonymo.
40% loss.
Yeah.
Did you see the? Actually, that's the question. Are you coming to the award show next year?
Hopefully, if it's in Stockholm again, I will definitely be there.
I don't. We haven't.
Maybe. Okay.
We haven't figured.
That's the
Is
plan.
it a problem? Should we move it to somewhere?
I wanna go
no,
to
I
Dubai.
can't go. No, I'm kidding. Dubai,
want-
but that's a lot of travel for just.
Yeah, I want Martin to fly everybody in business class.
Business, yeah.
Right? You're all gonna get flown in business, and we're all gonna go out,
Not
and it's gonna
next
be
year,
sunny and
maybe.
beautiful.
If we
I love
get
that.
everyone, if we get Device, Simple, Zaiwu, and Nico for this year, upcoming year, then after that we can do whatever.
Okay, so then we can go to Dubai or somewhere warm. Maybe
Australia.
Yeah, probably not. That's
Malta.
definitely too far. Yeah, okay, come on down. Even that time of year, maybe we go a little bit further south. Maybe down to the Maldives or something. All
Yeah.
right. So, Device, thank you very much for joining us. Normally at the end of the show, I open up. Is there anything you want to say to the people at home, your fans? Maybe there's someone who's been tweeting you bullshit and you're like, fuck you, man. Like, is there anything you want to say?
Honestly, I think we touched everything. It was a pleasure for me to be here, and you were really respectful, and I like that. And yeah, it was just an awesome conversation.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So is it
Exactly.
true that the suitcase behind you is full of cash for us for asking all the
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, I'll send it now.
All the low blows.
Thank you.
No, it's just for Malta soon. I'll bring the cash to chat.
Nice. Well, see, that's the great thing. I'm the only one out of these two who aren't like officially contracted to HLTV. So I can take the money and I can walk away. It actually works out nicely here. So yeah, and in the perfect place to do so. So we get away with it. But this has been great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being so forthcoming with the topics we discussed tonight. And I think for everybody at home, yeah, everyone just is so excited to see you back in the server playing against the best teams in the world. Because, mate, I was writing down the AWPer names when we were talking about them before. There's so many fun games of Counter-Strike possible. Like when we've got Dexter, Shiro, Zyward, Brokey, Simple, right? You throw like some of the up-and-coming, like the Nicoodozes, the Wonderfuls. You throw your name in the mix. Like, fuck yeah. Like,
That's AWPers everywhere.
yeah, and that's sick because you guys have the most exciting type of Counter-Strike that everybody loves to watch. So, yeah, hopefully we just get to see more of that this year. And yeah, I guess I got to thank the sponsors again. We got BitSkins, SteelSeries, and M1Bet. Make the show happen one more time, and we'll be back next week with some more HLTV confirmed. So thank you everybody for tuning in, and hope everyone enjoyed their time, and good night.
Finally, I found what I was looking for. Now that my search is over, it's gonna be a tough choice. But fortunately, no need to choose. When you can just have them all. Buy and sell skins on BitSkins.com.
N1 Bet. Your bet, your game.
Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Here's a good vibe, train, 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 train. Good vibe, train.